think you ought to know. Do-do-what-it-up, Men's Radio. Do-do-what-it-up, the place where men and women really speak. Do-do-what, do-do-do-what. Oh man, what a show. Do-do-what-it-up. It's Men's Radio. Do-do-what-it-up. Crazy show is on 3 times a week. Do-do-what, do-do-do-what. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, do-do-what-it-up. It won't cost you no dough. Do-do-what-it-up. Men's Radio, that's the place for you. With Russ Kane and Phil Dave.
It's Friday.
Oh, good. Marvelous. Marvelous. That's a great thing. That's fantastic. Fabulous. Oh, great.
I'm Phil Dave.
Oh, great.
Hello.
Hello.
Right. Morning. What's wrong with you?
What? Go on. Nothing.
Bruce, morning.
Linda Dave, no relation. It's Friday. Angela Lee. Oh, thank you for watching the ABC of CBD last night, Angela Lee, with the great Ollie Mammon. Good morning to you. And stand by with your production fingers. It's only Andrea Lucas.
Oh.
Thank you, baked potato.
It's only Andrea Lucas. How rude. It is Andy Lucas.
No. I said it's only Andrea. It's going to be a long
You said it's only Andrea.
It's going to be a long ass 3 hours, I can tell.
Hang on a second. You said it's
a long ass 3 hours.
If you said it was only Andrea Lucas, then you're saying it's only Andrea Lucas.
It is a way of bigging the person up. Ladies and gentlemen, it's only Cheryl Cole.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can understand you saying that.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong there.
Anyway,
yeah.
By the way, live on Men's Radio Station, it's a 3-hour bonanza program today, of course, with him, Russ Kane, and me, Phil Dave. We are live until 2 o'clock this afternoon, right here on either mensradiostation.com, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Deluxe Radio, and Radio Waves. Any which way you're listening, you're most welcome.
And I keep saying this, but I will do it until it gets through. You can see us on our YouTube channel. And as I say in all the American YouTube things, hey, smash that subscribe button right now and let us know. Yeah, so please do.
But thankfully, we are on the correct side of the pond and we know how to speak English. So rather than smash the subscribe button, perhaps you'd be so good as to click on it. Thank you.
It's not as dramatic as smash that subscribe button. Francine Warner, the queen of teapots, the queen of tea urns, the queen of having, I'm just going to repaint the front hall, Russ. 2.5, 3 years later, they've redone the whole house.
Might I point out that Tim Vine said that he used to live in a teapot. I know what you're thinking. Poor you.
Was his life a bit strained? Oh, hopefully Phil's just frozen for the next 3 hours. Thank God. Have you noticed it's mainly women on this morning? Andrea, it's very interesting that when we kicked off with Men's Radio Station January 2019, we didn't know what the demographic. We assumed it would just be men. At least 50% of our audience on MRS are women, which is fabulous. Why not? It's great.
Now,
everybody is welcome.
Angela Lee, look, stay positive with this. She says, had my first vaccination, AstraZeneca, yesterday, feel dreadful.
Oh, Angela, I'm sorry to hear that.
Try and take it easy. And just remember that you're one step nearer to the end of this hellhole that we're stuck in. So
that's just bloody awful. Now somebody else, where is it? Andrea is having no, where is it? Andrea Lucas going for my second jab later.
Ow.
Yeah. I'm just going to do something. Talk, because I got to make an adjustment here.
Isn't it marvelous? Seriously, I mean, this is like production at its finest, isn't it?
Shut up.
Just talk.
Just shut up.
You hear that on Radio 4 all the time, don't you?
Just shut up. Just shut up.
Wait, will you make your mind up? Do you want me to talk or do you want me to shut up? What is it?
I don't know, both. I can't think. I'm exhausted, to be absolutely honest with you. Dave Sleet. Hey, na. Hey, Nana. Dave Sleet, hello, greetings, one and all. I tell you why I said that, young Phil Dave. Young Phil Dave.
I do enjoy being called young.
Yeah, it's because I can hear you beautifully.
Oh.
I can't hear. I'm so used to hearing myself in my headset, and
You
I
won't
can't
be-
hear myself. I can't hear myself.
No, you won't be able to with your setup today.
Yes, I've changed the setup. But as long as you can hear me, that is all that matters. Ramsey says a lot of AZ people said the same. Now, I had a Pfizer vaccination at
My ties
Guy's
to
Hospital.
though, Russell, you've got to think to yourself, we can hear you, so arguably you're the lucky one.
Right.
Hi. Now, you know, that's what you call humour. Russ has now gone off in a sulk. And contrary to the rumours, no, that's not a Swedish car. He's actually gone off in a huff. He's really, really grumpy about what I've just said. He's trying not to laugh, just in case you're not watching this, because the problem when he laughs is it gives me some sort of credibility for being remotely funny, and it drives him mad because then I start cracking more jokes or trying to be more humorous. So instead, the way he normally works the way around Russ when he gets like this is if you start narrating everything that he's doing, and then he finds it absolutely hilarious to the point where he actually will start talking again because he just wants to stop me. So at the moment,
For the love of God, shut up. Ramsey says a lot of AstraZeneca people said the same. Yeah. Now, I had Pfizer, and I have to say, mercifully and to my utter delight, no side effects whatsoever. I felt absolutely fine. I was ready for just about anything. Felt great. Honestly,
is it
nothing.
way of helping Angela?
No, I'm just saying that. No, I'm. God, you're getting on my nerves today. We've only just started. Ramsey is saying a lot of AZ, that's AstraZeneca, people say the same. Pfizer seems to be better in terms of how people feel afterwards. Yeah, I mean, we're getting all sorts of feedback from this. As I said, I was really, really lucky with the Pfizer, and the ache that I had in my arm was no worse. Literally, than after I've done one of my personal training sessions with weights. I know, laugh your head off. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It was absolutely fine. So I think there is probably a difference between the various things, but all you need to know is it will pass. It's only like a 24-hour thing, and you feel a bit crap, and then hooray, on the road again. On the road again. Do you know what I missed? I did on Monday. It was a tasting to celebrate World Book Day at the Soho Whiskey Club. Obviously, it all has to be remote. Good morning to you, Mr. Edward Grossman. And I realised how much I used to love those tasting evenings up in Old Compton Street, the Soho Whiskey Club. It was so much fun. Anyway, did it all remote. And George Mickey, who is just the greatest host in town, you get a padded envelope with all the labeled little whiskies in sort of test tubes, little sample bottles, and it was to do with World. And the chap who was hosting the whiskey tasting was an amazing fella. He was the brand ambassador for Diageo, which is a huge brand. Oh wow, Philip, there was some stuff. I was thinking of you.
The brand ambassador for a particular whiskey bottle. Maybe I should do that. I should become a brand ambassador for a type of whiskey.
You should be brand ambassador for Paulwyn's No. 7.
Oh, do I have to? I don't really like it.
Well, I know, neither do I, but I think you'd be a marvellous, because all the women go, oh, look at that little face. They could have your little face on the label, and Russell, every woman would buy it.
Russell,
what?
Have I told you my little trivia about Paulwyn's as to why it's called Paulwyn's?
Palestine wine.
Blast, I did tell you.
You did tell me. Anyone see the lovely story about, well, no, it's Nikki Campbell, so we're not going to bother about that. Andrew Lucas, how's your holler today? Better than the rice cake. The rice cake. Tell everybody what happened with the rice cakes.
You don't understand.
Which I just replied, I despair, and I left it.
I'm really worried. You don't understand. This is not a joke. Every single time I eat rice cakes, I end up sneezing, and I don't understand why. I'm not sure if it's because
you're allergic, you idiot. You're allergic to rice cakes.
just for the record, just in case anyone thinks that I'm crushing them up and putting them into a line, I am most certainly not, and I don't advocate such things anyway. But what I'm doing, I'm taking the crackers, right, eating them in a normal fashion, solid, not doing anything to them, possibly eating them.
We've got that. No, only you would think you'd be crushing them up and lining them. Yes, go on.
Excuse me, I don't think of that, but that's what some people have
said. You've
no, but that's
you've brought it up, you idiot.
I didn't bring it up. I managed to stomach it. What happened was that people put that on the post. They were the ones who suggested that that's what I was doing. Anyway, of course, I'm not doing it. Eating the rice cake normally. And then a few minutes after eating the rice cake, I start to sneeze. And I don't understand it. The only thing I can possibly think of is maybe it's the dust from the rice cake gets up my nose. But it's really
now
odd.
You know how many people feel after they meet you for the first time.
What, they sneeze?
No, you get up your nose.
Oh,
now, here's the thing: rice cakes are the most. It's like eating a, wallpaper. There's no taste, no nothing. There was a time I just ate rice cakes. I thought it would be good. Right, Ramsey says apparently the Queen has 2 new puppies to cheer up. Over Prince Andrew, he doesn't sweat, obviously, and the Voldemort and me again. And poor Prince Philip, I hope he's getting better. I do hope he's getting better. He's nearly 100 years old. He's far from well. Let's leave it at that because it's not good for my blood pressure.
He'd be very hacked off if he didn't make it to his 100th. I mean, for goodness sake, he wouldn't even get a telegram from his wife.
That is true. Are there still... Here's a question for everybody. BBC Radio Norfolk. I didn't even... Because when I was a kid, there were telegram boys on scooters. They were very cool. Did you ever see them, Phil? I think you're too young.
I don't remember. I'm so sorry. I remember a facsimile. Does that count?
Oh, shut up. No. Telegram boys, you would send a telegram, Phil, stop. You're an idiot. Stop. Just stop. Stop. It'd be something like that, right? And that these guys would ride these red mopeds, but they were so cool because they had a uniform from the GPO, the General Post Office, as it was before it became the Post Office. And pegs on the pegs on scooters and motorbikes, and their thing was to lay the bike so low that the pegs were running on the ground. It was really cool to watch.
Program suggestion for Chantal later. Chalawatch.
I love that.
Busy radio presenter tries to make a perfect list, I think he means loaf, while being distracted by his cantankerous older co-presenter.
Who would that be?
To be fair, Ramsey.
Who would that be, Ramsey?
To be fair,
yeah.
I mean, I'm flattered, but technically I'm Russ's co-presenter. It's not really the other way around, but anyway. But I am.
Sweet you say so.
But anyway, my type.
Bill Oddie. We could get Bill Oddie to do that.
Hey, well, you've got Phil Odd. So does that work?
No, it doesn't. That was a real stretch.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. I need to answer. Hang on, I need to listen. I need to answer Andy's question about the collar because she's asking how's the collar going on today. But the collar was a bit of a disaster this morning. I wasn't really concentrating. So what happened is that ordinarily, to anyone who doesn't know, by the way, I'm not going to give you the recipe as such because it'd be a bit boring.
Oh, jeez.
Mix all of the dry ingredients and then you put the wet ingredients in. You add 1 egg and you put in the yolk of 1 egg. Oh, look, it's a chap. Right, are we allowed? I don't even know how to say that anymore. Okay, sorry. It's a hooded youth.
These are not the droids you're looking for. Let them pass.
Oh my God, you really like Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's really
Yes,
good.
that was the whole point. Thank you.
Wow. Anyway, okay. So what do you do is you add 1 complete egg and then you add the yolk of another egg and keep the egg white separate so that you can brush it on top of the dough later on. Anywho, I wasn't concentrating this morning. I don't know what happened, but I just put the 2 eggs into the bowl. I don't know how it went wrong. I'm not sure. Anyway, put the 2 eggs in. You're right, Russell. Put the 2 eggs in. Started mixing it. I thought, hang on. So hang on. This isn't it right this morning. He's got a nasty cough.
I haven't actually. I feel fine.
I thought, hang on, this doesn't look right this morning. It was really sticky and horrible. So anyway, I started thinking, oh my God, I've put the 2 eggs in. So I decided that what I was going to do is, rather than try and recover it, because a lot of people, when food starts going wrong, they make an effort to recover it. You put more ingredients in, and that's just a bigger waste. So I shoved that one to one side, and then I made another one from scratch. Anyway, as I was working on the second one, the first one starts going brilliantly, and the second one's the disaster. So I should have stuck with the first one in the first place. Oh, I tell you, it was hilarious. I think you had to be there, but still, anyway. Oh dear. So yeah, I've got 2 collars in the oven now, so we'll see what the results is later of both of them. I bet you can't wait.
This is Men's Radio Station, where we deal with mental health and well-being.
And it won't
Sue Cressman.
and
there we are. Hello, boys and my
Russ Phil.
pals.
In the song where it says it won't cost you no dough.
I'm ready to. I can feel myself getting ready to scream. Now, where was I? Sue Cressman. Hello, boys and my pals listening on this wonderful radio station. Am I creeping? No, you're being wonderful. Sue, can I mention the documentary? Not mention it? Am I allowed? Just leave it at that. Yeah, I won't say anything until you come back. Ed.
She mentioned it on Wednesday.
Did she mention it?
All right, wait for
publicly.
Sue.
She mentioned it to me because we've had a lot of correspondence about it.
She definitely mentioned it on the show.
Most jaw-dropping.
She definitely mentioned it on the show, but let Sue come back and just say it's okay.
Wow. Kimmy Lashmar says she had her first jab on Thursday. Yay. Kimmy, how are you feeling? You feeling good? Oh, yes, you can mention the documentary. Oh, gosh. Phil in the background. Because it shuts him up. Do you remember there was yeah, that's really good.
I'm in the background.
Yeah, could you stay there? This documentary.
I put the meal. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
If I say anything, I'm just not even going to go. I'm not even going to walk down that particular minefield. Thank you.
I would like to clarify that wasn't my intention.
No. He was getting ready to propose. He's practicing. I don't know if lovely Demisa's ready. I think she wants to stay single. Anywho, the documentary was about. Do you remember that Sarah Ferguson had a dresser, or rather Robert Harwood, isn't it? Had a dresser.
What do you mean, like a chest of drawers?
No, don't make a joke about this. You can't go down this. This is a horrible story.
No, you have to clarify what you mean. What are you talking about?
Someone who dresses another dresser.
Or like a valet?
Yes.
Oh.
Well, more than that. Yes. What is difficult to understand about a dresser?
Just asking.
You don't have a dresser? That explains so much. That explains so much.
I have a set of drawers, yes.
All right, you got a set of drawers. Good. We can. So, the dresser had a boyfriend who was called Tom Cressman, and she murdered him. And it was a very, very sensational trial. And of course, the psychiatrist came forward and said, oh, this, that, and the other. It was a brutal, horrible, disgusting murder. She's out of jail now, finally, but it was an extraordinary documentary. I think you can get it. It was a Royal Aid. Thank you, Sue Cressman. The Royal Aid. She was Sarah Ferguson's Royal Aid. It was a horrifying, horrifying story. And one of the things which does come back to the very core of Men's Radio Station is I'd never met Sue Cressman, well, not properly until we started doing Men's Radio. So you get to know and you get involved with people's lives, and they become, even though we may have met once at a variety, I can't even remember, but it feels like family to me. It really does. And you see the horrible effect that an act of such violence, unprovoked violence, has on so many people. you know, and it's always the perpetrator who claims to be the victim in many cases, when they're not. They are simply the perpetrator of a shocking act, which should never be allowed, of course. It was an extraordinary thing. Really, really was. If you can look it up and find it, it's worth watching. Not easy viewing, but well worth watching. Theme music for Holowatch.
Well, there's a contrast.
Can't believe you did this, Ramsey. Theme music for Holowatch is the "If You Need Me Now." That's by Chicago, by the way. It's not the bread song. I think it was a double joke. A dresser is one up from a foot person. Oh yeah, I suppose it would be. That's correct. Andrea Lucas.
You make friends on this station, even though you have never met them.
That's sweet. Well, that's how Phil and I feel. Obviously, I'm not friends with Phil.
Not about each other.
Friends with Phil. But,
no, not about each other. Definitely not.
No, ridiculous.
That's not what you call a friend.
That's not.
Other way, you idiot.
That's misleading it to you. Now, Paul Claridge. Sorry, I'm late today. I love the way everyone apologizes. It's so sweet. I had my hang on a minute. Oh, it's a non sequitur. I've got it. I had my first vaccine jab last week.
I was going to say, did you get lost on the way back from the appointment or something?
He's been asleep ever since. How does that work? Sorry, I'm late today. I had my first vaccine jab last week. I thought he was going to say, sorry, I'm late today. Just been for my vaccine jab.
I think he forgot a paragraph, but it's all good. We'll forgive you on
Hey, it's a good week for Paul Claridge. He hasn't been beaten up by Eastern European drug gangs in East Croydon.
And to the best
it's a winner. Winner, chicken dinner.
To the best of our knowledge, he hasn't been up a ladder either.
I think he was up a ladder earlier. I never know what he's doing up the ladder. He's never explained what the hell he's doing up. Maybe he's just trying to go up in the world. Right. Sue Cressman. Let's deal with this. 2 judges have deemed Jane Andrews, that was the name of the royal aide and a murderer, as a prolific liar to try to justify her actions. Not only murdering my brother-in-law, but trying to murder his reputation too. I'm going to extrapolate on that, if I may, on behalf of Sue Cressman. This Jane Andrews character, I use the word character, I could use so many other words, tried to claim that Tommy was violent and an abuser. Everybody who knew him, all his relatives, more importantly in this context, all of his ex-girlfriends said he was the nicest, kindest, sweetest, gentlest person you could find. And she didn't give up after this. She came out of jail and kind of kicked off again. But of course, this is awkward. We have a dedicated radio station that I've put my heart and soul in, as all the team have. Myself, my co-founder, Howard Jameson, you won't see on air because he's actually very shy. And not all the team and producers and other presenters and everybody. And it's all about mental health and well-being. We know that. But it gets me very upset when you use it. I'm trying to use my words carefully, Philip, as an excuse, as a defense, when what you've done is indefensible.
Well, might I suggest that here is where I have a real issue? Because if you were to say that mental health is an excuse for carrying out a crime, I'd say this is wrong on 2 levels. Number one, that is suggesting that someone who suffers with mental health isn't capable of knowing what they're doing, and therefore putting them on a low pedestal, right? Or like on a lower level, if you know what I mean. Then the next thing is that how often do we hear people campaigning quite rightly that anyone and everyone gets treated on an equal level? In other words, if someone has a mental health condition, they should not be discriminated against. They should be treated exactly the same as anyone else. Of course they should. It's not rocket science. That makes perfect sense. But you can't have it one way to suit your needs. If someone has mental health issues, then they need to be criminally trialed if they've done something criminally wrong. You cannot use mental health as an excuse for doing something that is criminally wrong. Because otherwise, it's almost like saying, oh, well, therefore they're just there, they've got mental health, so they need to
Well,
be
it's a
treated.
get out of jail card, and I don't appreciate it.
Horrific.
Sue is saying, "You make me weep. Tom was so lovely." See, this is the thing about media and news and real life. It's a headline on a paper, and you look at it over your toast and Marmite, and you go, "Well, that's shocking," and you move on to the next thing. But the important thing to remember: these are real people with loved ones who care about them. In every case, these are real people. And when terrible acts occur, the aftermath and the fallout are forever. You don't get over that. You will find coping mechanisms to get you through every day. You would never, as Sue Cressman, who's a very successful person, hugely articulate. We can't wait to go down to Nailcoat Hall, do some shows from down there, etc., and meet a lot of you. Maybe we'll have a big men's radio day. I don't know. We've got to wait for the world to return, but that would be my dream. I know Phil feels the same, but you know, Sue has to live with this every single day. As she says, "You make me weep. Tom was so lovely. What Jane has done to my family is disgusting. We'll never get over it." But can you imagine? I'm choosing my words very carefully. Can you imagine if your relative has been brutally murdered? I'm not going to go into details because you might be wanting to have lunch in the next hour. Appalling. I mean, just horrific. And then you twist and turn and lie your face off in court to try and turn the blame on the person you've just killed. How the family must be sitting there burning with rage. I mean, you know me by now. I do get passionate about stuff. When there's stuff in the news, yes, I'm not impartial. People say, "Well, you should be impartial." I can't be. I'm a human being, and that's how I am. But I couldn't imagine the fury that you must feel and what it must do up there to you when you sit for a 3-week trial, because I think it was a 2 or 3 week trial, and listen to a tissue of fabricated bullshit. It must be horrible. It must be a horrible thing. And that's why Sue Cressman says she did Life and is out. We are doing Life forever. Now, I don't understand.
Started on that.
Well, you see, this is the thing. I'm not a politician. I never would be, because I'd last about a second. She was sentenced to life. I think she served 12 or 14 years. So you'll have to help me on this. 12 or 14 years is not life. It's not life.
No,
It's
it's
12
not
or
life, but
14
it's a
years.
life. No, it's not life, but it's a life sentence. It's very clear. It's very carefully worded, the punishment. You're not serving life. You're serving a life sentence. And a life sentence, sadly, is a pitiful amount of time.
But the point that Sue Cressman is making on behalf of her family is this, that the perpetrator of this murder is out, can do what the hell they want, live a normal life, move on. The family can't move on because they're sentenced to a lifetime of mourning, of missing, and of absolute bloody fury. Ed Grossman says, it was 14 years she got, right? Ed Grossman says, "I think the question is, can such an evil woman be sane?" She's clearly a very, very disturbed person because her patterns of behavior beforehand and after this are so disturbing to watch in this documentary. They're so disturbing. You sit there going, "Oh my God, can't believe," But can she be sane? Well, do you believe in evil? Do you believe some people can be just evil? And it's things like some of the themes amongst the humor and everything else that I tried to touch on in The Gatekeeper is Do you believe in it? Yes, I do. I do believe that some people are inherently evil. I'm not talking about the devil and God. I'm just saying that some people can be inherently evil. They're evil people. So do I believe in evil? Absolutely. Yes, I do. Ramsey says, oh, Sue Cressman's come back. Do you want to read this, Phil? It starts 12 years.
12 years, just 11 years, then escaped.
Yep.
Then she had an additional amount,
Yep.
came out, and then allegedly harassed another man, and then had to go back inside under license.
It was a married man who suddenly got terrified and realized the terrible mistake. I'm not talking about morals, the terrible mistake that he'd put himself. Ed Grossman, she can't be sane and should be in prison forever. Now, Ed, we often clash on this show and we often love your comments. I've got to agree with you because I'm not a professional. I'm saying this as somebody who's gone through this with Sue on, she's been sending me messages and they are heavy reading because there's details that weren't in the papers, etc. Do I think this person would be capable of doing it again? In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. Do I think, and I'm not a doctor, do I think that that's possible? Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Should we? Oh my God. This show's getting very heavy. It's my fault. I mentioned it because Sue is part of the MRS family. I like to think of that as all of you. I know it sounds hokey, but you made the phrase, and I thought, that's how we actually feel about it. Both Phil and myself feel the same. And it was such a shocking documentary. Shocking. Because one of the things it does, and this is where I do get very upset and concerned, mental health issues are going to explode over the next 2, 3, 4 years. Phil was the first person to say this a year ago, and he was absolutely spot on. He was way ahead of the curve. He was way ahead of me. I'm not taking any credit. He said it. And he
It's
was
not
right.
about, I'm not being funny. I don't want to be right in this instance. It's not about.
No, nobody. We never want to be right about it. We'd like to say, and everything's going to be great, and every 5-year-old is going to get a free unicorn. But we live in the real world. It is what it is. It is what it is. What it does to me, and I'm trying to say this carefully, it tarnishes the real issues of mental health. People are struggling. People will struggle. They will struggle economically, the stress, the violence, the divorce rates, all of these things. This is inevitable. This is inevitable. And if you've got through this 1 year of hell, count yourself very lucky. And I count my blessings every bloody day. I really do. But when you claim victimhood, Monday's interview, when you claim victimhood and you claim, and then the experts come along and say, well, it's mental health issues, it dilutes those with real genuine problems, and that's what I really object to. Really object to. Ramsey says, has someone started a campaign to get the Home Secretary to review her release? No, the woman's out. The only campaign was to get her back. By the way, and of course, as a family, think about this for a second. Sue Cressman is saying this is the sixth documentary we've had to be subjected to. Sue's not in the documentary. They want to.
I'm sure.
Behind them.
But hang on a second, Sue, surely your family has got every right to turn around and say, no, sorry, we've spoken about this enough before, because it must be, well, I'm not going to say it must be. I don't know what it's like for you to keep repeating it. It must be hell on earth. I mean, living with it every day must be bad enough, but then to go and say out loud what you've all been through must be ghastly. So I would have just thought that it's a case of turning around and saying, no, enough already, because why should you torture yourself like that over and over again?
Even if you do, if they decide to do a all right, I'm going to change it, take the spotlight away from Sue and the family. If let's just say they say, right, we're going to Channel 5, we're going to do a documentary on Phil Dave, and Phil goes, well, I'm not taking part. And Phil's mum and dad go, well, I'm not, Linda and Ray go, well, I'm not taking part. You won't take part. Doesn't mean the documentary won't go ahead.
I suppose.
No, but no, not you suppose. It'll
Yes,
go ahead.
it's all right. But
They don't
I
need your permission. They
Well,
don't need your permission to do it. They can just do it. If it's libelous, that's a different matter. But then you've got to find the money to fight the television company. That's a whole hoo-ha. But they don't need your permission. They will go round and they will find people who you've worked with, that you've met. Oh, I'll be in that documentary. I'll get my face on TV. So they don't need your permission. And also, as Ed Grossman is very rightly saying, Phil, they reuse old footage and do. Of course they do. That's what they do. They cobble it together. They're program makers. They make programs. That's their skill. Would you like to read Sue's comment to this if we didn't allow? Yes.
If we didn't allow the documentary to go ahead with our input, they could say a load of rubbish. It's only because of the royal connection that there is interest. There is a lot of other information that should have been put in.
It's interesting why it wasn't put in. I'm trying not to be gory and I don't want to be brutal, so I'm not going to go into, I think Sue knows what I'm referring to, the actual act itself. Can we just leave it at that? Because if that came out, game over. Game over. Kimmy Lashmar vaccine is having her on Thursday. Where are we? I always remember these things. Yeah, John Lennon, who was my least favourite Beatle. I know everyone thinks he's God. I was not a big John Lennon fan, must be honest. Not a very nice person by all accounts, despite his being deified. And he campaigned. Oh, who the hell was it? James Hanratty. Was it James Hanratty? James Hanratty's innocent. He was marching up and down, doing his usual stuff. And the DNA later proved that he was completely guilty. Yeah, and that went on for years, James Hanratty thing. Now, Paul Claridge. I can't read it all, Philip, because my screen, you have the longer screen.
I do, so hang on 2 seconds. I shall find the longer screen. But let's have a look. You see, the problem is that Paul very kindly sends these very nice messages that are incredibly long-winded, which is great, don't get me wrong. But as a result of it, unfortunately, the software that we use, I know this is really fascinating stuff, by the way. Unfortunately, the software that we use regrettably chops off the end of it. So
my cousin Francine Warner is probably making notes about this now to bring up over Friday night dinner with her husband, Michael. Well, I should say, as she pours the Pullwins, Michael, did you know that the software that Russ and Phil use, Michael will go, where are my glasses? Go on.
Paul says, sorry, this is a long, very sad message.
Oh, Lord.
I will be up a ladder tomorrow. I do some handyman/carpentry work at the weekends for friends. And I said it's a friend who has a small portfolio of rental properties.
You've got a small portfolio from what I hear, Phil.
Thank you. Sadly, one of his tenants passed away this week. Only in her mid-40s, and yes, it was COVID. She leaves behind her elderly mother, who she lived with and who has dementia. The mother has now lost 2 adult children in 12 months as her son took his life. Her other daughter is now desperately trying to get a flight from her home in America and trying to find out if she can then isolate with her mother instead of a hotel. My friend and I are going to the house tomorrow to see what we can do to help.
Do you get a message like that and you read that and you think, how lucky am I?
What the heck is going on? Hang on a sec. Martin Allen, sorry I'm late, guys. Just had my COVID jab. What's this? Suddenly the COVID jab's a really good excuse for everyone being late.
How dare they? How dare they?
But that's great news, by the way.
That is, wow, some people's lives, my God, it makes you shiver, doesn't it? It really, absolutely. Sue, which Home Secretary signed off the release, says Ramsey. I don't know. I think that was, a life sentence means 14 years. I mean, sometimes it means less. It's extraordinary, isn't it? Do you know, Sue Cressman says she wouldn't even say, where are we? She wouldn't even say sorry. So rehabilitation starts with sorry and moves from there. No, she wouldn't even say sorry. Wouldn't even say sorry. Whew. Oh, now this is the clever double bluff by you-know-who. Crazy name, crazy gal. Phantom, I'm not late. I just forgot to announce my arrival. The old double bluff, Phantom. Because we don't know if it's true or not. Very clever. Very,
You're
very good.
by the way, to the Daily Show with Russ, Kane, and Phil Dave. We are live with you until 2 o'clock this afternoon here on mensradiostation.com and across social media, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Simply do a search more often than not for Men's Radio Station and then up we pop. Also, we are on radio waves and Deluxe Radio. And just to point out, if you are listening to this as opposed to watching it, when I say we're live across social media, you may find, I mean, you may not, but you may find it even better to watch this program as you'll see the visuals as well. You're most welcome to join in. All of our comments come through on social media, so if you did want to join in the conversation, you're most welcome to do so. We do not expect just the regulars. We want you to join in as well. I think, Russell, that now is an optimum chance to tell people.
Optimum chance.
Optimum chance to tell everyone what is coming up in terms of guests today.
Dun, 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 dun. Go on.
As you can tell, we spend an awful lot of money here at Men's Radio Station on our sound effects department, for which we are eternally grateful to our founding members who have not stinged at all in said budget. Coming up at midday today, we'll be speaking to Dr. Ben Chalascombe, who is he's a very, very clever sort of chap. He is consultant urological surgeon and honorary senior lecturer with a special interest in robotic surgery. Now, he's going to be talking about his incredible work. I mean, it's unbelievable. This is a doctor from the future, if ever I met one. So very excited to be joined.
How did you do that?
Well, he is a doctor.
How did I manage to get someone from the future?
Well, because he's joining us at midday and it's only 1:45.
Okay.
So anyway, so he'll be joining us at midday.
He's joining us, by the way, because we tracked him down. We got him. There's a whole slew of emails to set these things up. It doesn't happen by magic. And he said, well, I will be just have finished operating.
Wow.
You know, just finished operating. Will that be all right if, and then I won't go into the technical details because it's dull. And we went, oh yeah, that's absolutely fine. He might be from the theatre. Great.
Now,
Scalpel, microphone.
Question for you.
Yeah, yeah.
During lockdown, what have you achieved? My point exactly, because our guest,
Plenty, as it so happens.
our guest at 1:00 this afternoon,
Oh, I see. It was a rhetorical question.
sort of. James Crossley will join us at 1:00. Now, during lockdown, James, at the age of, well, I hate it when people say their age because as if it matters, but at the age of 47, gained his yoga qualification level 4. So there we are. He is going to be telling us about how he put his mind to that, really, in a lockdown
I had
situation.
this morning. Does that count? Is that the same sort of thing? I've got a yogurt qualification. It's very nice.
Yeah, maybe. I think
Just putting it out there, you know. One of the things that we do, and we beat the crap out of ourselves, don't we? And this started at the beginning of lockdown. As yes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spring clean my home, and then I'm going to write a novel, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get fit, and then and you think, oh, jeez, and there were a load of people doing that, probably with the best of intentions. I don't know about you, but it just put a lot of internal pressure that we didn't need. Just getting through the other side of this crap, that's a success enough.
Well, speaking of the
I'm serious. I think it's a really important point, not because I'm making it. I think it's an important point for our mental health. You know, if you compare yourself to other people, it was activer, Angela. It was active, so it was thickish but thinnish.
Can I just suggest that, speaking of getting through the other side of this crap, at 1:30 this afternoon, Chantal Rickards will join us, as she often does on a Friday, for a nice little roundup of suggestions of what we can be watching on the box. A terrific lineup, I'm sure you'll agree.
It is Chantal Rickards, OBE. So that's the end of the. Now, Sue Cressman, coming back to this, because this is an important thing. We had a meeting with Jack Straw, long story, where my very elderly mother-in-law was being doorstepped by press. Oh, yeah. They're so lovely when these things happen. Doesn't matter if you're 102. They will doorstep you. They will harass you. They will do all sorts of very, very unpleasant things. You know, when you see the pictures, when you see the pictures, and someone's by the car and they're like, see if I can get the right expression. You know, they're looking concerned or worried, and they'll say, "A worried Phil Dave photographed outside the ivy," blah, blah, blah. And do you know why they manage to get the pictures, what the press do? Not every time. I'm not maligning the press.
Well,
They put a toothpick. It doesn't matter now because she got fobs. But before fobs, when you insert a key into your car door to unlock your car, they'd put a toothpick in it. And by putting the toothpick into the inserting it into the lock of your car, it delays you. It allowed the snappers to get that shot. And it also allowed them to get a shot of you looking worried or angry. Well, you would be, because you're going to put your key in the car and suddenly the key doesn't work. That was a delightful little press trick they would do. Nice.
Quite the charmers. Hopefully not all of them, but hey.
No, not all of them, of course not. We've got friends who are in the press and who are perfectly lovely. But, you know, it's not nice. And if you're going through a complete nightmare, as the Cressman family were, with Tommy being murdered, the last thing you need is harassment from the press. Dave Sleet says, MRS's efforts in supporting mental health are award-winning. Well, thank you very much for that. Thank you very much. Ed Grossman. I'm at an online music convention this week and will go soon. See you Monday. Enjoy. Online music. That's cool. Yeah, I suppose Medem and everything like that's just gone out the window. Yeah. All gone. All gone. Right. Okie dokie. Right. What else? What's happening? What's going on? Have I missed any comments there? I have. I don't know if I can read Ed Grossman's comment out. I don't think so. I'm a bit nervous about the end line.
Rather than read his comments out.
Yeah, I think
just ahead of our first guest. I think you'll find we need to brace ourselves.
What's going on?
We need to get ready to take a little.
It's Holowatch.
Because, ladies and gentlemen,
here we go.
This time,
I'll do the commentary while you walk. I'll do the sort of nature watch comment. And
I appreciate that, actually. Oh, I see you're going to do it in the style of David Attenborough.
Well, I'm not, but you know, that sort of. And so this time of year, we're hoping for a glimpse of the holler. The mother holler has been nesting, and soon it'll be time for the baby hollers to take their first step towards a plate and, of course, butter. As you can see, Phil is roving through the steppes, that's the Russian steppes, where the holler waits in attendance.
It's not the 39
covered
steps,
only by
so long.
39 steps with John Buchan. So,
right, okay.
This is the moment we've been waiting for.
It is actually.
The holler.
Right.
What's he wearing? He's going to a wedding.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is holler number 1, which was actually the disastrous one.
That's all right. What's the matter with that?
No, I don't actually understand how it happened. It
That's
sort of
good.
turned out for Kane
If you want
then.
to post it to me,
And
if you want to post it to me in a jiffy bag, I'll accept.
This is the backup collar. Okay, this is done for an extra 5 minutes.
This is the moment when the holler must leave the nest and fend for itself. Its
Well, it does,
natural
actually.
enemy is the chop liver.
Well, right, there we go. We have the sample
Let's go
roll
to
here.
the river and find the salmon and catch it.
Right, are we ready for sample roll? Okay.
As the salmon swims upstream in Waitrose, the holler awaits. Nothing can escape its jaws. What are you doing now? Get on with it, for God's
This
sake.
is sample.
Hurry up.
This is the sample collar. So we just tear it open to see the fluffiness inside. Oh, look at that! Isn't it nice and fluffy?
Paul Hollywood. Yeah, so very nice. That looks pretty good. Doesn't
Mm.
look too glutinous. I don't know what I'm making this up. I have no idea what I'm talking about. Well,
oh,
come on, Mary Berry, tell us what it's about.
it's not terrible, but it definitely has a different texture to the normal one.
Was that your mother? I could hear. I think I could hear some kibitzing in the back. It sounded like your mum.
Yes, you're right.
That holler is so good. One can only conclude that Phil has had too easy a ride on the show. Yeah. When are we going to get the recipe, Phil? Phil, you can fill for a minute with the recipe. Russ, smoked salmon in one, chopped liver in the other. Oh, Ed. Oh man. Do you know how much I miss that? That is the only thing I miss about North London. I can't get any of it. You're walking
to be
and
fair,
look, Phil is like a new man. He's the new man because he can multitask. Look, he's walking and chewing food at the same time. Unbelievable. What a guy. Yeah, right. Everyone's going,
fair,
Phil, you need to write the recipe down for us. Okay.
well, to be fair,
Yeah,
I think you'll find actually, Russell, that many an occasion, having left the Soho Whiskey Club, you do end up with chopped liver. So.
Oh, the good thing is on the corner is a what? You see, he screwed up. Pride comes before a fall.
You say screwed up, but actually that was just a remix.
What was it? The Phil Dave Holler remix 12-inch version?
I don't know.
With Matt Waterhouse. Is a remixer. Ed, I can get all that within a 5 minute. Ed, shut up. Shut up. I know you can. I couldn't get it within a 5-mile drive. Swear to God, if I want fried chicken, I've got that up the kazoo. If I want falafel, no, I don't even have a falafel. What's the other thing? If I got like kebab houses or pizza places.
In shawarma.
No, I don't think I can get a shawarma around here. Shawarma around here. No. Ramsey says, Sue seems like a nice person. She introduced Roger Hodgson when he played a charity gig at his old school, Stowe, a couple of years ago. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Right. What is the recipe? Oh God, I can't. I'm not going to do a recipe bloody thing. I'm just not. David Wimble says this. Morning, chaps.
Remember, you're a Wimble.
Mike Batt is a Facebook friend. I've never met him, but he's a Facebook page. He's a wonderful artist. He does these doodles when he's on the phone and stuff, and he takes a picture of the doodles. Wow, I'd be thrilled if I could draw like that. So impressive. Morning, chaps.
Reminded me, I used to doodle my way through some things.
I never doodle. Never.
I didn't doodle so much. I'm more actually for someone who just draws cartoons, but well-known cartoons. The things I read.
Da Vinci.
Read Roadrunner, Pink Panther, Fred Flintstone.
Fred Flintstone. Beanies, meet the beanies. Right. Morning, chaps. So someone is blatantly evil. I should say, and killed, and a history of offending serious crimes. Ooh, David, I can't. I'll read it, but I can't comment. I don't think I'm going to comment on it. Morning, chaps. So if someone is blatantly evil and killed and has a history of offending serious crimes, do you not think it would be better for society to give a humane lethal injection? It costs nearly £7,500 a week to keep a prisoner in a high security prison. Would that money be better spent on mental health? That is such a huge question. I cannot do it.
Bearing in mind,
I don't feel qualified to discuss it.
well, look, bearing in mind that our next guest is joining us, our first guest.
I don't feel qualified. I don't feel clever enough to answer that.
I might suggest that in an age of DNA testing, I don't buy the argument that was originally introduced in the bid to abolish the capital punishment, which is when people said, oh, but sometimes they got it wrong. Yes, they did sometimes get it wrong. But DNA testing now kind of proves that you don't get something wrong anymore. That's precisely why when DNA testing is good enough to sentence someone to life in prison, it's also perfectly good enough to sentence them to the ultimate punishment. In my humble opinion, I hate the money that is wasted on prisoners in this country. Where I personally think that money would be better spent is probably in educating people in the first flipping place about what's right and wrong with the world. But hey, like you say, big subject, maybe for another time.
You don't need an educational service to say killing somebody is wrong.
No, you don't.
The most basic of all things. Killing somebody, unless they're coming at you with a gun or a knife or something, it's self-defense, is wrong.
But prevention is better than cure.
Yeah, totally. Of course it is. But no one's going to sit there. Oh, I didn't know that. Thank you for pointing that out. I thought it was perfectly okay to kill somebody.
Make no mistake, I wholeheartedly believe that the world would be a better place without these individuals, but sadly, that's not an option.
David Wimble, he said, if only I had £1 for every time somebody said, remember you're a womble, it must have driven him absolutely mad.
I do apologize.
Here's the thing. Oh man, this is a whole 3-hour show in itself. David Wimble says, the person who killed Lee Rigsby, the guardsman.
Fusilier.
Yeah, I mean, just a Fusilier. I mean, just would I have had them? I despair. A heinous crime. Inexcusable crime.
Anyway, look, like you said, I fear that this is a massive discussion and probably not one that's best suited for Men's Radio Station, but it is something that I personally feel very strongly about. And my point is that when people use the argument of that a jury could get it wrong, well, in this day and age, DNA, it's highly unlikely. So that argument has now gone. Therefore, I think that a sensible debate on capital punishment really should be thought about, because there needs to be more of an incentive not to carry out these crimes, because clearly the system doesn't work at the moment. Otherwise, we wouldn't have anywhere near the level of crime we've got. But anyway.
Our level of crime per capita compared to the United States is much better. Nothing's perfect. Of course not. One death is too many deaths. We know that. But it is, and thank goodness, because we don't have the gun culture. It's true.
And Ramsey's using the other argument where he says, if killing is wrong, it should apply to the state too. I thank God I don't live in the USA. Well, here's the thing, Ramsey, about that particular argument.
You're not wrong there, Ramsey. It's an interesting point.
It is an interesting point, but the biggest difference, of course, is that if you are taking somebody's life for whatever ridiculous reason that may be, then you are just absolutely plain and simple a foul individual who does not deserve to live in society. It's as simple as that. Why should you? Why the hell should anybody who thinks it's okay to take another person's life because they feel like it be allowed to breathe the same air? And worse, we as hardworking taxpayers pay for the privilege of that person to carry on living. And that sticks in my craw. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It is so unbelievably wrong and so unjustified. And yet, every single way through this process, when everyone talks about this, they always put the perpetrator at the center of the argument. Try putting the victim's family at the center of the argument. Try how does it make them feel? Never mind about how it makes the perpetrator feel, because their feelings, frankly, they've lost the right. How does it make the victim's family feel?
Sue Cressman, who has more right to comment on this than anybody, Phil is quite right. My husband thinks there shouldn't be capital punishment. He thinks you should have a complete life in prison and not be let out. I do believe because that woman Jane wouldn't be around anymore to make more allegations. Yeah, she hasn't stopped. That's unbelievable, isn't it? Not only not apologized, hasn't stopped. Ed Grossman agrees with Sue.
Right.
What have we got? David Wimble enjoyed the show. He's got to do his own show now.
Oh, right. Okay, well, off you go.
David Wimble of Deluxe Radio.
Anyhow, let's change the direction. Let's change the topic on something far more positive, because very clearly not everyone is going to agree on this, and it's a very, very delicate subject all the same. So instead, let us put ourselves in the hands of an expert who I can see waiting in the digital green room, who is, well, perfectly poised and unfortunately looks the vision of the day and age in which we find ourselves in. Dr. Ben Shalachem is lined up. Dr. Ben, a very, very good afternoon to you.
Wow.
Oh. Hello, Ben.
You look so professional.
You see, he was so close it so far. Anyway, we're getting back.
What are they?
I can only
come out of the operating theatre. I'm not kidding you. It really, really has.
I think they know that, but I can only assume that it's the NHS Wi-Fi playing up. But hopefully, we'll get him back in just a moment. So Ramsey says, "Agreed, Phil. Lock them up and throw away the key. Would you rather live in Saudi Arabia where they cut the heads off murderers?" Well, no, I didn't say that. But I don't see why taxpayers should have to pay to fund the rest of their life. And I think that's a perfectly reasonable argument. But anyway.
If you extrapolate, let's hope
can you hear us now?
Hello, Russ.
How are you?
You're right.
Very well, thanks.
Excellent.
Great. Now, tell us where you physically are, Ben, right now. Where are you?
I'm in theatres in Guy's Hospital, and we just finished an operation, and so we're just sort of starting to get our things set for a second operation, and it's been great that we've been able to get back on operating in the last few weeks. I do a lot of prostate cancer surgery and kidney cancer surgery.
I just want to say, before we get into anything else, I could not praise Guy's Hospital enough for what they've done for me over the last recent years for various things. You guys have been absolutely brilliant.
Right.
Including
Right,
even having having my jab there the other week.
We've done 100,000 vaccinations now, so that's been a massive drive. Even all of our surgeons have run the pod, one of the vaccination pods for the day, which has been quite been really uplifting actually, getting involved with that and feeling like we're contributing to the bigger picture.
It was so honestly, I know I raved about it when I came back. I raved about it publicly. It could not have been better organized. It was superb, absolutely superb. So
might I say as well, though, on behalf of Men's Radio Station, all of us here, it seems like almost not enough, but just thank you to you and to everyone at the NHS, because seriously, you know that I hope you know that most sane people have nothing but admiration for all that you are doing. Let's talk about your line of work when you are not in the midst of a pandemic and possibly being distracted from your incredible day-to-day work. Would you be so kind as to explain to those, because clearly I have no ability whatsoever to put it in the terms that you'll be able to do. Will you be so kind as to explain exactly the line of work that you are in and what it is that you do?
Yeah, of course, delighted to. So I'm a consultant urologist and also known as a consultant urological surgeon, and of course that's very linked to men's health and men's health issues. My primary interests are in prostate cancer, men with enlarged prostate, and kidney cancer. And one of the sort of supplementary roles I've got within our trust, which is a good place to work. Of course, we've been under the cosh a bit, is leading up some of the initiatives on awareness around kidney cancer and bladder cancer, and also running robotic surgery. So we're lucky to have 3 surgical robots here. Sounds a bit more glamorous perhaps than they are. We still have to drive them and we look after them, but they help us do this sort of keyhole surgery for people who need it. And of course that had been very much on the back burner at the beginning of January with very limited access to that. But I mean, I would say that the trust, we've had 200 odd people in our trust in ITU, but despite that, they've managed to keep a lot of the cancer surgery going. And that's been fantastic. So we haven't had the kind of issues that we had the first time.
Do you just dropped a patient? Do you work with? Do you know Mr. Shabir?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mad Shabir and I are very similar. Yeah, so we're similar vintage. We've both been here about 10 years, and he heads up the sort of a variety of different clinics to look after men with. I don't know if I should say if I know you know him. It might tell people why you know him. Anyway, he does a different aspect of urology than me.
He is a fantastic chap, and he's looked after me for the last few years. And I can't praise the work, the kindness, the professionalism you guys do. Honestly, the fact that you've saved my bacon is putting it mildly. So honestly, I can't.
Great. I will pass on your.
Can't thank you enough.
Might
I point out at this stage, you mentioned just before it was almost like a minimal comment in the grand scheme of things, but it actually is quite major because it's almost sort of surgery from the future, really. You were talking about a little bit about the robotic side of surgery that's carried out under your watch and your colleagues' watch as well.
Yeah.
And there are some people who get very freaked out by the concept of robotic surgery. But my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you don't sit back and watch the robots do what they're doing. There is guidance from consultants such as yourself, isn't there?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The robot makes absolutely no moves that are not defined by the surgeon. So yeah, there is no put the robot on, go for a nice cappuccino, and we'll see you in half an hour. No, the robot should really be called a sort of if you imagine those Etch-a-Sketch things you had as kids where you kind of put a pen and it drew something and you traced around it. It just mimics your hands at a greater scale. That's all it does, is you move your hands in a certain way, and inside the patient's body the little robot hands move and mimic that. And the great thing is you can cut out tremor. Everyone has a bit of natural tremor, of course, some people more than others. It means I can have 3 cups of coffee, I won't get any tremor. And you can also scale the motion. So if I move 5 centimeters outside, it'll move 1 or 3 or whatever I set it to on the inside, which means it's very easy to do, sort of microsurgery, very delicate stuff, even though you use similar sort of hand movements to normal. And it's got a 3D camera on it, and obviously they've got a few gizmos. So we do all of the prostate cancer surgery here for prostate removal with the robot. We have done for 10 years, and pretty much across the country now, I think it's 92% is done with the robot. So it's been a great niche for centres to get into. There are some, you're getting on my facts now, something like 75 operating robots around the country, and the majority do prostate work as one of their main things.
But does it matter then in that? Does this mean that we're at risk of what one might call more conventional or traditional surgery disappearing into history? And if so, does that matter?
Yeah, well, it's asked, of course, a lot. What happens if the robot breaks down? What happens if there's a disaster? And what we have to do is you always consent a patient that if there were to be a problem, you would have to go back to doing it with open surgery. And of course, we mention that every time, but we absolutely are desperate that doesn't happen, because none of us have done any open surgery for 5 years for this kind of thing. There are obviously other things, trauma and emergencies, where open surgery is very much the norm. But we have done a few things where we've got round it, because we've got 3 robots, so occasionally we've had to wait till one other one has been finished and then move things around. The piece broke, but the company are pretty good at sorting that out. They MOT them, every week. They're very robust machines now.
Amazing. Do you think that men generally are aware enough and made aware enough of prostate issues, or is it something that they shy away from?
Yes, well, yes, they shy away from it more than they should do, of course. And there was a huge awareness really about prostate that came up in the last couple of years. With obviously the BBC been covering that a lot. Stephen Fry, I looked after Stephen Fry, and he gave us a sort of carte blanche to use his name to get that awareness out there. But obviously, COVID has not been something quite reasonably that has been an important thing during this whole pandemic, and the prostate is the single biggest group of missing diagnoses we have from 2020. I don't know if you know that, but we've had basically half as many men diagnosed in 2020 as there should be. By should be, I mean we know what it is every year. In the UK, it's like roughly 42,000 a year. So last year it was 21,000 diagnoses. So where have the other ones gone? This is our worry. And so part of the NHS capacity to build recovery after COVID is not just doing the men on the waiting list, but getting us more resources to look after the people who are yet to come forward for prostate, particularly gynecological tumours and lung cancers. They're the big three groups apparently that are sort of missing in action at the moment.
And just to be absolutely clear, not wishing to sound completely ignorant, but I suppose I really want to hone in on the importance of this. This is not because that suddenly the numbers of people who have said types of cancers has lowered. It's that the numbers being diagnosed has lowered because people presumably aren't coming forward because of the pandemic.
Quite right, yeah. So we call this potentially what's called a stage migration, in that if we found 50% of prostate cancers at an early stage and 30% at a medium stage and 20% at a late stage, we are worried that we will now be dropping the numbers that come at the early stage, and we're going to see more at the medium and late stage, because we know those cancers are out there. There's no reason to think the numbers should have dropped. And because of obviously fear and wanting to look after loved ones and other things, other worries, people have not come in for those sort of checks where they might say to the GP, oh, I've got a family history, or I'm African or Caribbean background, I should be checked, I'm of a certain age, I'm a bit worried about this, my waterworks have got a bit worse, and the GPs have done that testing. So those kind of semi-casual, non-emergency GP consultations we think are happening less, and therefore less men are getting diagnosed.
But are they right to be worried? So I'm so sorry, Russ. I was just going to say, are they right to be worried though, and stay away from the hospitals when you are so busy? Because surely I would imagine that is what's going through a lot of people's minds. They're thinking, the NHS is so overwhelmed at the moment. I really don't want to add to it. But I'm assuming they shouldn't stay away if they are worried. Or
absolutely. The message now is very clear, is that we have got diagnostic resources available. It is safe, especially for people who've had their vaccines. If you are worried about any little symptom that you have developed over the last year, or you were going to have a check and you didn't have a check, come and get it. Get in there and have it done, because we can look after you.
That leads me on to my question, which is this, Ben? What symptoms should guys be looking out for?
So when the things that I suppose as a urologist that I would want to make crystal clear are, for me, our most lethal tumours in a way are kidney and bladder cancer. So if men have blood in their urine, even if it's just once, even if it caused a bit of burning and stinging, and it might be thought just to be an infection, that should be checked. So blood in the urine is an absolute classic important sign. Do not say, oh, it's just one of those things. Maybe it's just a bit of a prostate thing. Maybe it's I did a bit of gardening, or I was a bit constipated, or whatever it is. Very simple to do a couple of tests and check that. For prostate specifically, it is, the prostate is frustrating because a lot of men with symptoms just have a big prostate. But I would say better to be diagnosed and checked out and found that you've got a big prostate than it is to sit there and unwittingly let a prostate cancer develop. So it's kind of new symptoms where you're either struggling to pee, to get it out, the flow is slow, dribbling a bit at the end, starting to get up much more at night. and feeling that you're not emptying the bladder, those sort of symptoms are usually prostate related. So again, they can be checked out, and we've got we've got 24 consultants here just in my department. We've got the resources to look after people.
And one of the things I'd like you to reconfirm is that it doesn't mean it's a death sentence, and it doesn't mean it's always terrible news. So don't be frightened to go.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a really important point, is that prostate cancer is, although it's common and although a large number of men in the country will die from it, in the majority of cases, it is not a lethal disease, and men either need no treatment or can be cured or live with it, and it can be sorted out. And so it's one of those ones where if caught early and we know what's going on, yeah, absolutely, we can sort it out. And that's what I'm doing today. I'm doing 2 men with prostate cancer, and we're doing keyhole robotic surgery to remove their prostates, with a view that they will be completely cured after this procedure.
And of course, I suppose there's an argument to be had as well, in some strange way, that if someone was to think to themselves, just going back to the thought process of, oh, I don't really want to trouble the NHS, they're so busy, I don't really want to, get into that and add to their problems. I suppose there's an argument to be had that would suggest that actually the longer you leave it, the more work for the NHS there will be. So actually, if you go earlier and get it sorted as quickly as possible, that's potentially more of a help to you, I would have thought, than leaving it and requiring a lot of treatment.
Yeah.
Sure, no, you're absolutely right, because if cancer is found at an early stage, then the treatments that are chosen are usually more likely to be curative. And the healthcare, the health economic resources of dealing with somebody where it's caught too late, of course, where they need multiple treatments and they need chemotherapy and they need radiotherapy and they need palliative care and all the rest of that is hugely burdensome. So we would rather, obviously, the best thing is that people don't develop cancer at all by sensible lifestyle advice and minimizing the risks from that. But for prostate, there's not a lot you can do, because it's not related to smoking or alcohol. It's a little bit related to obesity, but a lot of it is just bad luck with genetic changes in the cells related to family history and let's say racial background. But found early, it's cured, and then you're done, and that's it. It's just a blood test every year once you've been treated.
Now, speaking of the blood test, Linda Dave, one of our listeners, says, please can you ask Ben, how reliable is the PSA test?
No, well, that's yes, I could. All urologists could give a good lecture for hours probably on the PSA test. The PSA test is the blood test, and it is the best blood test we have, but it is not a great blood test. So it is what we call in science terms, it is very sensitive in that it goes up if there is a problem, but it can go up for a big prostate infection in the prostate or a prostate cancer, and that is the problem, and that's why it gets a bad press. Is that one man, of course, can have 1, 2, or occasionally all 3 of those things, and so it is only an entry to the process. There's been some fantastic work done recently showing that the value of MRI scanning, so the whole pathway for prostate has changed. That for men we're worried about with our higher PSA, and don't let anybody touch you, men, unless you've had an MRI scan. Because the MRI scan has been shown to be not just sensitive, but much more what's called specific in science terms. And that means if it says that there's a black blob on the prostate, then there is a black blob on the prostate, and it's likely to be cancer. Whereas for a man walking through the door with a high PSA, there's only a 1 in 4 chance that actually represents significant prostate cancer. So it's those 2 in tandem are much more effective than the PSA on its own.
I'm going to ask a question. Please don't get upset, but when it's rare that we can get somebody of your stature to answer a question like this. People have been moaning and saying, "Wait a minute, COVID has closed down effectively the NHS. The NHS is really just the NHS, COVID, and everything else has stopped." But that was never true, was it?
No, I mean it wasn't. It's my personal story. I'm only a tiny cog in the sort of machinery of this whole thing, but we did over 500 operations in our cancer centre, which is usually a private healthcare facility, and we did 500 NHS cancer operations in that in 2020. So we took over a whole floor of that and carried on. So people who had bad cancers, for the most part, were able to access that. And for guys, it's been within London Bridge Hospital, and for other centres in London that I know about. I can't speak for the rest of the country, but I know they had similar arrangements. But we used the Wellington Hospital, the London Clinic, the Princess Grace. So a lot of the private hospitals gave over a ward and a wing and an operating suite, and we carried this on, not just with with my area, urology, but with some of the other really serious areas as well, gynae, gastrointestinal surgery, thoracic surgery. So there is a consequence of some of the delayed diagnosis, and there has been progression in a proportion of people with these lower, in brackets, lower risk cancers. But the majority of people with serious cancers were able to access the treatment. Yeah.
So they weren't. You see, one of the things that really upsets me, because it's all to do with mental health, because it gets people very scared, is this kind of notion put out by the tabloids that people with cancer, especially even in your area, they go to the hospital and say, "Oh no, sorry, we're too busy with COVID. We can't deal with you." But that's really a myth.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a myth, and to start with, there was a fear, of course. If we look back to this time last year, we saw this sort of tsunami coming towards us, and no one had any idea quite what we were going to be able to offer, and no one came through the door for the whole of April and May last year, basically, unless you had a severe problem. But we have kept things going. We have protocols. They are safe. All of the staff around me have been vaccinated now. Something amazing, like 94% of all the doctors in our trust have been vaccinated. I mean, so things are, we are in a position where we have access to MRIs and CTs and to telescope tests and all the rest of it. And I know all the figures each week, and the capacity is there. So I would just urge people that if you're worried, then come, because we can look after you.
And Ben, what does that mean to you? You were saying around 94% of staff in your department have been vaccinated. What does that mean to you and to your colleagues? I can't help but imagine that must be an enormous sense of relief.
Yeah, interestingly, it's 94% of doctors. It's only 70% of the total hospital staff. That's I was just saying there's a slight nuance on that. It makes me much more confident when I work in a theatre where I know the anaesthetist, my assistant, my registrar, the junior surgeon helping me, have all been vaccinated, and of course a lot of the men coming through now have been vaccinated themselves. We're not obviously we're taking all of the precautions, but it means that you're not worried in the same sort of degree about a sudden people catching COVID in the hospital, which was quite prevalent at one point. Is now less than 10% of all the people in the hospital caught COVID in the hospital, in the vast majority of hospitals. So yeah, it's very reassuring. I've just heard my wife say,
Oh, sorry. No.
Just heard my wife, who's a surgeon too, has had her second vaccine today. So, so that we're getting onto the staff having their second. So she'll be delighted with that.
Talk about a family of high achievers. God, damn, that's fantastic. When's your next operation? What time's your next operation? We should let you rest.
Yes.
So when's your next operation, Ben?
Well, you kindly time this so that I could. We work from about 9 till 12. It takes about 3 hours to do one, and then by 1 o'clock we'll have the next person on. But they're probably going to arrive in about 10 minutes, so I probably need to go and
we're going to let you
chat with them.
Without a shadow of a doubt, you must away and carry on the amazing work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for finding the time. I really appreciate it. All the listeners around the world really appreciate it too. Thank you very, very much.
Pleasure. No, well, it's amazing. I recognised your name, Russ. I used to listen to you on the Flying Eye, on the bus, on the way to school for 10 years. 10 years. I listened to you.
Oh, bless. On the way. Well, certainly your education was not wasted, Ben. Look at that. Unbelievable.
I do rather enjoy telling Russ that I used to listen to him on the way to school as well.
Yeah, you can shut up as well. Right, Ben, thank you so much for everything.
Have a good day, guys. Lovely to speak to you. Cheers.
Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye. Wow. That is how humble do you when you meet somebody like that and you see the work that they're doing, how humbling is it? Humble.
But apart from anything, can we just clarify? Sorry, he's in between saving lives. He talks to us. I mean that is
from
that
the theatre.
but that is what you call a hero. I don't care what anyone says. I'm so sick of people denigrating the NHS. I'm so sick of people saying, "Oh, this vaccination's all massive ploy to control us." Just shut up. You've literally no idea what the hell you're talking about.
No, because they're idiots. They're idiots, but they're just given airtime. But they're not given airtime here because they're morons and they're stupid and they're nuts. Now, I really want to underscore, he was speaking from Guy's Hospital. They have been so amazing to me. So amazing. The work that they've done with me, the way they've saved me on a few occasions over the last few years has been sensational. And they're so reassuring. You're scared. You're scared. This is life and death stuff, and you get pretty scared. And they're so reassuring, and they're calm and efficient. All of those things. Absolutely amazing.
Might
Amazing
I
work.
suggest, on a slightly different note, better late than never.
Oh, this year I'm off to sunny Spain. Hey, viva España.
Chrissy Holt says, "Pity I came in too late." Well, I'm not going to lie.
Probably on a tractor. She's probably on a tractor in a field in the middle of Spain. Which is what she does. What have we got? We've got here Ramsey. Oh, where are we going there? Hi, both and Ben. Good God. What is this? I have a nodule on my thyroid and had an examination last May. Told it wasn't cancerous. Told would see me again in November. That was cancelled. Still waiting for a follow-up. Do I need to worry? Well, no, don't need to worry. Should you push it? Yes, of course.
Yeah,
sure. Anything like that, Chrissy. Look, I never give medical advice, but I will always say this.
No. But hang on a sec. That's not medical advice. That's common sense.
Yeah, what I'm going to say, yes. The point is, some of these illnesses are very time sensitive. That's what Ben was saying. They're time sensitive. If you think it'll go away, it'll fine. I'm peeing blood. That's fine. I'll be fine. No, get it sorted. It took my father. My father died from it. Okay, it killed him. So, I'm open about it. I've had issues as well, and it's very, very frightening. But it got dealt with, and it's okay, and it continues to be looked at and under treatment, and it's fine. But don't leave things like that. That's what happens.
You're
leaving it, but the cancer's doing its stuff.
I feel one of the biggest problems with cancer is exactly what's happened with COVID. Is all we ever hear about is doom and gloom and scaremongering about it. That's all we ever hear. And it's right across the board. Never mind just about the news of when you actually hear of someone famous who's died from it. Even to the advertising campaigns. I understand completely why the advertising campaigns have to make an impact because they have to try and raise as much money as they possibly can. But when you see an advert depicting someone who is clearly towards the end of their life, and then the word cancer underneath it, that's the image that sticks in people's mind. And the truth is that if they were to show people at an earlier stage who look, dare I even suggest it, as if there's nothing wrong with them, if they were to show people in that situation and say, okay, was in one morning, out the next, diagnosed, had it removed, had it cut out, had whatever treatments I needed, possibly didn't even need treatment.
May not have needed it.
How different would our attitudes towards cancer be? It's really, really annoying and frustrating that unfortunately people just have the doom and gloom stuck in their minds because that's all we're fed. And it's exactly the same with COVID. I still stand by, I don't understand why they don't put the number of people who've recovered from it each day. Why on earth don't they say, when they say the number of people who've died, they should then say the number of people who've been discharged from the hospital?
Because, and I'm wearing my advertising marketing hat here, which was really my career forever, was this. If you're trying to persuade people to be careful, if you keep giving them the good news, those people who haven't given a flying you-know-what throughout all of this, who haven't worn masks, who have been partying, who have been doing stupid bullshit things that they should never have done, right? All of that, and you're saying, hey, but then it's like a license. It's a license to carry on partying.
Yes and no. Hang on a second. The license to carry on partying. I'm not being funny. If you're going to get idiots who are going to party during this, they're going to party through this, whether you like it or not.
That's my point.
If you are going to give someone a license to party, right. I mean, it's not the case. If you're sensible about the delivery of the message, then people will sit up and listen. You know full well it's all in the message and it's all in the wording.
Of course it is. It's all in the message. Kimmy Lashmar says, my husband's PSA changes, but he follows his gut feeling. He has it, but told most men eventually die with it, not because of it. It's a really important point Kimmy's making. You can die with it. You probably won't die from it. You can live with it perfectly fine. Perfectly fine. His consultant and the NHS have been superb, so thank you. They have been great.
My point is, and I know that we'll never know the maths behind this, okay? But what you were saying very flatteringly about the way I've been banging on about the mental health impact of the COVID pandemic from the beginning. What really bothers me is that if you absolutely remove all elements of hope, and hat off to Boris, whatever you think of Boris's style and the way he's handled this, one thing has been consistent is wherever he can, he has given a little tidbit of hope. He's offered, absolutely, he's delivered bad news, but he's said things like, I'm confident by spring things will feel much better. I'm confident we will get through this and we will be back to normal where we were before. All of these things that he's saying is offering a little bit of hope. He is not doom mongering all the way. He's delivering the facts, and then he gets on with trying to give people a cause for some sort of positivity. If you look at the press, and I'm sorry, I'm speaking as someone who works in the media, all the way through it, doom and gloom. What is that doing to people's mental health? That is grinding them down and making them terrified. As if this isn't bad enough.
Well, people are scared. People are very scared.
And
this is the problem. And this is why... Say again?
I was just saying, but where do you think that scare, that feeling of being scared comes from?
Everywhere. Everywhere. It permeates through every aspect of our lives at the moment. And I've been very open about this. People are saying, oh, we're going to do this the moment this date passes. Oh, we're going to meet here. We're going to meet that. And I'm going, no, we won't. You can. I'm not. I will continue to be cautious. And if people say, well, you're a stick in the mud or you're an old fart, I don't care. Because I'd rather be well and enjoy what I can than just go do some stupid socializing with people that, you know, I love seeing, but if I don't see them, it's not the end of the world. They're not my family.
Can I just say, off the back of what I was saying earlier on about more positive attitude towards cancer, Paul Claridge, who is 100% qualified to make comment on this, says 100% agree with you, Phil. Thank you, Paul.
In other words, one, the treatment you get is excellent, but two, don't hang about. Just you know, get it sorted. The earlier, the better. Trust me, the earlier, the better. These things, I keep saying it time and time again, they are time sensitive. And the earlier you catch these things, you've got so much more of a chance. It's so easier to deal with than the later you leave it. Okay. Sue Cressman, I agree. However, I do hope we get people back to our hotel. Abso-blooming-lutely. Abso-blooming-lutely. And you will.
I think what Russ is getting at is that there will be quite a few people who will be quite damaged by this, because it's not going to be a case of turning around and saying, hey, guess what, everyone? COVID crisis is over with. We can all go back to normal. You don't think anyone really who's taken this as seriously as many have are going to be able to look at people in the same way again, get on the train in the same way again, touch sort of public things like door handles and things like that. You don't really think that people are going to just like that be able to flick a switch and start carrying.
I won't do that. I won't do. It was a year ago. One of our great broadcasters is Dr. Pam Spur, and I was thrilled when we got her. She's on Men's Radio. It's a really interesting show, and I've known Pam for years. And the last public event that I went to pre-COVID, when it was weren't in lockdown or anything, it was kind of bubbling. There was something happening. No one quite knew. Was at the Century Club on Shaftesbury Avenue. It was an art exhibition. It was a fantastic night. We had a great time. And I went, and everyone was laughing at me because I had my disposable gloves on and I wouldn't shake anybody's hand. And everyone thought, Russ has gone nuts. And then that was the last time we ever saw it. Me, Denise Welsh, a crowd of people. The lovely Stephen Smith, who's a regular guest with us. Fantastic guy, and all sorts of people with Vicky Michelle, blah blah blah, and they were all laughing because they've known me for years, and they were laughing. Oh, Russ, you and your latex gloves, what are you doing? And I said, well, I don't feel safe. I really thought about coming, and I've just got a feeling this isn't going to go away. Not going to be a 2-minute thing. Duh, I was right. Rare for me, and people are still kind of going laughing like this when we had the studio, Phil, and we took it very seriously. Studios are like one of the worst places for germs. Extraordinarily bad.
Well, totally. Apart from the fact you're breathing into a microphone piece where other people will breathe into the same microphone and then breathe in from said microphone. I actually sort of believe now that the correct way to go about this would be to actually, this is really boring for anyone who does not know this, but for broadcasters to have their own what's called windshields or windsocks. These are the little foam bits you see on the microphone. I believe the most sensible thing would actually be to carry your own one rather than use.
Well, you don't want to share headsets. You really don't like sharing microphone, all of that sort of stuff. Which is why,
hand on heart, you knew this from when we were in the studio. I haven't used a shared headphone set since I started in radio. I only ever use my own. I've always done that.
Julie McDermott, friend of the Soho Whiskey Club. I was at the Century Club Halloween 2019 to see Brian May. He had the guitar from It's a Hard Life on display. How cool. Brian May, what a charming, charming man. Phil is right, says Sue. We still keep our own restrictions in, although a little less than now, to help our staff and keep them safe. If you know that the establishment you're going to has taken every care with the staff, with the hygiene, with the cleanliness, all of those things, I think that is correct. And you can take additional things. Phil and when there was a little gap between lockdowns, and Phil and I had lunch, there was you, me, and Alexander Listenfeld. We had lunch in town. This is just a human contact. And we brought our own cutlery. I'm happy with that. I'm fine. If people want to laugh. It's fine. No, I don't bring my own plates. Obviously.
Hand on heart, I will never go back to using restaurant cutlery in the near future. Even when all of this is over, seriously.
It's interesting.
Because it's not. But the problem is, it's not just. I know.
Let me ask you this. No. I've got to ask you this then.
I know it goes through a boiling wash. I know all that.
Yeah. But here's a question for you. And Sue, come back. You're in the entertainment industry. You're in the hospitality industry. Meant to say. I've got my own cutlery set. You've got your own cutlery set. We rock up. Blah blah blah. Okay. But you're going to use the glasses there, which you're going to put to your mouth.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're going to use a straw.
I use a straw.
Oh yeah, you're going to use your own straw. Okay. What about the plate?
The plate hasn't touched someone's mouth, I would like to think. Unless someone's been disgusting, then I don't think the plate's gone anywhere near that person.
It's touched. If we're going to be really get down to the nitty-gritty of this, this is my level of paranoia. It's touched the waiter, serving person's waitress, whatever. It's been in the kitchen. The chefs have It's gone from the sous chef to the main chef. Blah blah blah. Yeah. It comes out. It's plated up. It's then brought out to the table.
But I would like
to through several hands.
No, absolutely. But I would like to think I don't eat off the edge of the plate. I eat off the middle of the plate. There is a reason why there's an edge to the plate. That's for carrying. You don't put your hand right in the middle of the plate where the food is. One hopes.
Interesting. Sue is saying, this is a good thing, that the staff wear cotton gloves.
Quite right.
I'm not saying that I'm going to be a hermit, but what I won't do, who knows how clean the people's hands are who empty the dishwashers, where you can take it, maybe wait staff could wear gloves or bring it on trays. Yeah, but if they bring it on trays, somebody's still got to place the plate on the tray. Depends how deep you want to go into this. It depends how deep. I will
Yes,
not be a
there
hermit.
are things.
And I can't wait to see my family and my close friends. But I specify, and forgive me with this, to kick off with, I will put my toe into the water gently, like in the swimming pool where you don't know the temperature, by family first, and then I stress close friends
Yes,
who I
but
know have
but
been careful.
okay, you and I both know there will always be risks. Whenever it comes to sort
Yeah,
of
of
meeting with
course.
people, whenever it means to going to
Of course.
restaurants, there will always be risks, but you can do things to minimize the risk. So, for example, throughout this pandemic, I get the option, and this is my employers being perfectly reasonable, based on the time of day that I work, they offer me the chance to get a cab that they pay for to take me into work each morning.
Yeah.
I then make my own way back by the time I've finished on public transport. I could do that if I wanted to. But what do you think causes more risk? Doing that or going in by car every day and also giving a lift to my colleague who I work with, who's technically within, that sort of work bubble. So I hate the expression. It's so flipping cliche, but you know what I mean. Within that work bubble, there is much less risk for the two of us traveling in the same vehicle together every day, wearing masks, by the way, all the time.
I would do the same.
Rather than taking a cab with a total stranger and then going back on public transport. So yes, there's always a risk, but there's a way of minimizing the risk. And that's the way I look at it with bringing my own cutlery. That's the way I look at it with using a straw rather than drinking straight from the glass. It is so true that absolutely there will be a chance of maybe catching something from someone picking up a plate who's not wearing gloves. But at the same time, there's less of a chance of using cutlery that other people have shoved in their mouth, even if it's been through a boiling wash. I can't break that association.
No, and and if people want to laugh and mock, screw them. I couldn't care. I don't care. People laughed when we started to wear the mask. I don't care.
Well, Angela Lee makes a very valid point. She says during this, very few with flu and stomach bugs too. Right, that is not a coincidence.
Because some sarcastic people said, "Oh, what's happened to flu season?" Think about it. You know what's happened to bloody flu season. Here's Sue Cressman again. Remember, she's in the hospitality trade. I'm not, so she knows. She's at the coalface of this, right? The dishwashers have a tray inside where we remove and then stack them after the food is placed again with cotton gloves. However, I'd be happy if someone brought their own plate. It's fine. We want to support the industries. Will I be rushing back to theatre unless I think it's been safe? No. Will I go to one thing? I'll be absolutely honest, and it's just me. Will I go to the cinema again? I'm not convinced, unless it was something so fantastic that I would drag myself off to the cinema. I think they have to rethink that whole way of releasing. That's a whole side issue. I do. I think we've got very used to watching them at home. And if, for example, there was a big film came out, I don't know, take a Marvel film or something like that, and it was released in the cinema and on the same time on your TV, and you would charge 20 quid to watch it. And at first you go, oh, 20 quid. Well, if you go to the cinema, it costs you, 15, 17.50. You buy some crap, you buy some popcorn, you get a drink, you have a drink after. It's a whole thing, right? You're sitting at home, 20 quid. It's no different. It's no different.
Angela Lee, I've not been to the cinema for 15 years.
Yeah. Well,
I can't deny it was never my favorite pastime, way before COVID.
I used to love it, but there's so few films that you think, do I need to see that film in big format? Is it necessary?
Yeah, but the other thing as well, it wasn't just about that. It's more, I don't like cinema etiquette.
There is no etiquette. There is no. You try being in America with etiquette.
No, but I really don't like cinema etiquette from people who feel the need to talk through the film. So
God.
Did you see that? Look at that! Look at that!
No, this is what drives me insane.
Mobile phone
drives me insane. Hello, we're talking, texting. What are you doing? You got the nuclear codes on your phone for 2 hours. You can't be in the cinema and not texting, and the light from the phone.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
then, and in the West End theatre, which is arse-achingly expensive, it's crazy money. West End theatre, eating, for Christ's sake, you don't need that, right? And then even in the theatre, you've got the light. I mean, you're going to the theatre. Can you stop? It's nuts.
I mean, I do like the theatre, because the difference is, with the theatre, there is something that you get from that you can't get from home. If you were to watch, if you're lucky enough to, say, have a large screen in your home environment with your home comforts, to watch a film in a cinema where it stinks a bit, where you got people around you who really don't know how to behave, or whether or not you've got the comfort of your own home with your own food that doesn't cost you any additional money, what do you think sounds better? I know what I think sounds better. But if you look at the theatre, well, it's not very often that you're going to have a live performance in your front living room, is it?
No, it's the thing. So, right, I'm going to answer this question because I know it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but not. I sent in between lockdowns, Sen Monroe's a very nice fellow. I mean, in all honesty, Sen, we've met each other in real life two or three times. I can't think with more than 2 or 3 times, but we've become chums. We've become good chums, and he's a nice man. Here's the thing, and he did a barbecue and everything, and I said, Sen, I'm forgive me, I'm not going to come, because if it'd been in someone's home, it's another thing, but it was in a public place, and I didn't know everybody else, and I was gun shy, and I didn't go, and I didn't want Sen to take offence. It wasn't a slur on the host. It was me saying, no, I'm not sure about the safety of it all. So Sen's gone. Are you saying you won't be coming to our red carpet premiere, guys? Maybe not. I mean, I will always support you, Sen, in all the things that you do. You know that. We speak on the phone regularly. We have a lot of interactions. But if I feel that the way that I am at the moment, I'm being very open about this, the way I am at the moment, if I feel that, is it kind of essential? Do I know the other people there? Am I going to feel safe? And I may say, I wish you all the luck in the world. I won't be coming to that particular thing. I don't know. This is how I'm talking today, on the 5th of March. That's how I am. And I'm sure many people feel the same. We all want to get out there because we're all going around the bend. I can't wait to see the family, see the kids. I miss them enormously. You miss them enormously. But it is where we're at. And safety is paramount. Paramount. What's Julian McDermott saying? Would you like to read Julian McDermott's point?
Julian McDermott says it's more the experience rather than actually seeing the film. I want live music back. Really missing concerts. I have 4 tickets to various concerts that have been rescheduled twice already. And absolutely, I couldn't agree. That's why I say it's the live performance for me. Cinema, I'm not convinced that cinema is going to look very good by the end of all of this, if I'm honest with you. But I am convinced that people are hankering for live performance.
Well, for so many of us have friends who are in the entertainment field. Ray Gelato is the first that springs to mind. Ian Clarkson and the Jive Aces. So many artists, Cassidy Jansen, Hillary O'Neill. The list goes on of our friends, Bobby Crush, all these people. It's wonderful to go out and see them play, because I can watch a film at home. I get the same deal, to be honest with you. I get it. If it's a good plot, it's fine. I can't have Ray Gelato and the Giants turn up and go into the living room and do a set, much as I'd love to. I can't have Ian Clarkson and the Jive Aces in my kitchen. It's a wonderful shared experience. Music is great. Would I go to another concert? And probably not. But I'd probably go to see those guys, A, because they're mates and I want to support them, and B, because the music's sensationally good. I love it. Warby and Farrell, who are incredible. I saw them before all this lunacy started. They're wonderful, wonderful. To see that. Yeah, we're missing that. Of course we are. And it's an enriching It's an enriching part of life.
Stephen
Going to
Marsh.
some, yeah.
Stephen Marsh says, don't go to the cinema. Save what they charge for popcorn and pay off your mortgage instead. Stephen,
Well,
I've got to tell you,
he's not wrong.
I've got to tell you, it'd be quite nice if some of us could get a mortgage, full stop. But hey, I couldn't agree more.
Oh, yeah. Kimmy Lashmore, maybe we should look at China to see. Oh, God, we're opening a can of worms here. Maybe we should look at China to see how they operate and sanitize cinema. I wouldn't want anyone sitting behind me sneezing. This
Oh my God, that reminds me.
You see, this is it.
Oh, did I tell you about?
This is it.
Hang on, did I tell you about the time when I was on the way before any of this nonsense started? When I was on the underground one time, it was just sort of just after the peak of rush hour, I would say. So the trains were still a little bit busy, but they weren't absolutely heaving. And out of nowhere, I feel this draft of air come from behind me. But at the same time, I feel the draft of air. I hear someone go, "That's true." This idiot standing behind me decided he was just going to sneeze all over me.
Oh, stop it.
I went.
Oh, man.
I mean, if you could just imagine, of all the people to sneeze,
I know you. Oh, God.
I am not the one. Or the only thing that could have possibly been worse for him is if he would have sneezed on Julia Hartley-Brewer, because God help him, I don't think he'd still be standing if that happened. But the fact that he did this to me...
Oh, I've got to ask you about that. Come on, finish that.
I turned around and went absolutely... Linda, thank you very much. My mother says, probably ate a rice cake, Phil. Thank you. I went absolutely... I went absolutely insane with this shouting... Don't get me wrong, this is in front of other passengers. People look, I just looked at him and I said, "Do I look?" I won't say the exact wording because it's a bit rude.
Oh,
but
no, we love the wording. We love the wording.
I will drop words that are not necessarily radio friendly. But I looked at him and I said, "Excuse me, do I look like a handkerchief?" Insert a word. May I suggest there was a word inserted between like and handkerchief? Even so, I went absolutely nuts. What the hell is the matter with you? Cover your mouth when you do that. Anyway, he then starts conversing with his friends in a completely foreign dialect and clearly didn't understand a word I was saying. So instead, what actually happened is that I looked like some sort of raving lunatic on the train in front of other passengers. He was blissfully unaware that I was clearly talking to him. And he went about his business, got off at the next stop, and everyone's still looking at me as if everyone looking at me as if I'm the one who needs some sort of help. I was fuming. It was disgusting. And I had the rest of the day with the horror. What's the matter with people? Seriously.
Yeah, well, there you go. Welcome to life. Chrissy Holt, I went to my friend's anniversary do yesterday. Remember, this is in Spain. We were distant and outside. I prefer that and not to go inside where you're too close. I'm with that. Most bars in our villages have tables outside and screens between tables. Oh, it's the screens. Oh, God. I feel like you're in a branch of the Halifax or something. If we had the climate here in Britain, it would be lovely. It would be so lovely being outside. It's life enhancing, isn't it? I've had people... Oh, dear, not be very well, shall we say, says Juliet McDermott, in the carriage of a tube and flash at me while they were vomiting. What? They were flashing at you and vomiting. There's a certain skill level there. Did have someone on a crowded carriage touch my bum. When you're an attractive woman, Juliet, let's not kid ourselves. When he did it again, I very loudly said, "Touch my bum again and I'll marry you." No, touch my bum again and I will touch your balls. He moved. Fantastic. Julie McDermott always makes us laugh. She's very, very funny. And I met her through the conviviality of the Soho Whiskey Club and the Soho Cigar Club. Soho Cigar Club sounds so grand. We don't actually have a place to meet. They pick a place and suddenly we're a club. But it's very, very nice. Separate incidents, what the vomiting and the flashing. Yeah, well, there you go. Sue Cressman. Chrissy, have you had your vaccine in Spain yet? That is for Chrissy Holt. Sue Seat up in Fife via where was it? Via Staples Corner and Bromley. Sorry, guys, got to go. Tide's out. Oh, man. Tide is out. Got to get to the beach with my dog, Charlie. Yeah. I don't know if you remember. Sue Sleep posted a picture of where she lives in Fife, in Scotland. It just looked great. Just the idea of taking your dog for a walk on the beach. What a wonderful, wonderful idea. That's so attractive to me.
Oh, one can
That's so attractive. That's so attractive to me. You see, I'm even thinking, and this is how this has affected me. I'm being very honest. You know, I'm not doing the BBC thing. I'm a presenter and broadcaster. And blah, blah, blah. It's not that. We're all in this together, right? And I'm thinking, do I want to leave London? Have I finally had enough? I'm not going to go, you know. But then I got my family here, and I got my friends here.
But haven't we proven that friends and family can be connected with over the digital technology?
It's not. I can't. All right, this is just me. What makes me happy is like meeting my close, very, very close pals, my cigar chomping pals, just two of them. And you can't do that over a Zoom. You can't do that over a Zoom. You just can't.
Then take a day trip to London.
Well, no, that's it. That's exactly what, I would say, Ray, Colin, we're picking that, and that's the day. And then I would take the day trip. But I'm really thinking, it's overcrowded. I don't know if I'll ever use public transport again. I don't know. Don't know if I could be brave enough.
I mean, I have to tell you, if given half a chance, honestly, the biggest thing that restricts me at the moment, there's two factors. Obviously, friends and family would be a major barrier to me moving far away. But I have to be honest, I know that there would be times when I could nip back and see them. That's the difference, is at the moment we can't see each other. But when we have the freedom again to do it, we can nip back and we can see friends and family. I have to also confess that the other factor is that work, because of where I work, I can't work from home. This I can do from home, but I obviously can't do the other day job from home. And with that in mind, that's kind of what's anchoring me at the moment. But I really am weighing up the odds of, honestly, whether or not even the future is in this country, never mind in London or the surrounding area. Seriously.
That was Rupert Murdoch on the phone. He's really worried you're going to leave.
I don't think he is. But even so, I just don't. I've had another bit. Oh, God, I don't want to get into this, for goodness sake. Not least of all because we've got a few minutes before our next guest joins us. But I had another letdown on the old mortgage front this week.
Oh, no, not again.
Again. And it was very nice, people. They were messaging me left, right, and center because, of course, they know I've been very open about this whole battle I've got with just trying to get finance to get on a blooming housing. Like, can I just point out, I am not looking to move into a mansion. I'm talking about.
Come on, yes, you are. You are.
I'm talking about, as a young professional, I can't even. Not because I'm not on a decent enough salary, because of the lending system, I cannot even get a nice little 1-bedroom flat anywhere near to where I live. That is not because I can't afford it. It's because the money is not lendable under current regulation, just to be very, very clear on that front. Anyway, so the announcement this week by the Chancellor saying about 95% mortgages, great. That really may help quite a lot of people. It still doesn't help the majority of people in my position who struggle like mad as a single person, because unfortunately, it's just not something that is lendable.
Hang on. Whoa. Hang on. Stop. Your phantom has spoken. Phil, I can help you with a friendly mortgage broker. DM me.
Yes.
I told you I had a mortgage broker. I told you that months ago.
No, absolutely. No, I need to let you know, because a lot of people say this and they are lovely. They're so nice about it.
Thank you, Eve, by the way. Thank you very much.
They all say the same thing. You've got.
She sent you a kiss, by the way. I think you're in there.
Well, what can I say?
You're in there. We don't know her marital status.
Sen says your house.
There's a kiss.
Sen says your housewarming gift will be waiting. Thank you, Sen. Look, the point is, that, can I tell you, with mortgage
and he'd
brokers,
do it as well. That's easy. That
hang on.
is. That,
Can I tell you this? This is important. With mortgage brokers, right? When they say to you, what the problem is, it's not finding a mortgage broker. I've had loads of people recommend mortgage brokers, and they're all very, very nice, very, very helpful, and more often than not, sympathetic to the problem. The biggest problem you've got is that mortgage lenders are actually regulated. This is not their choice. They are regulated to lend a maximum of 4 to 4.5 times a person's salary. Okay? That's the maximum they can lend. Now, if you think about the average salary in this day and age is around what? £25,000 roughly? Okay, so the average salary, £25,000. So if you're lucky, maybe you get somewhere between £100,000 and £115,000. And when you think of the average cost of a home in this country is around £250,000, you do the maths as to why there are so many people who cannot get on the property ladder on their own. It's the lending system is fundamentally busted. And the problem is, when you speak to different mortgage brokers, time and time again, they all come up with the same thing. They all say, we're really sorry, but the most you can borrow is this. Don't get me wrong, the amount that they're saying I can borrow is actually not that terrible. But in order to borrow...
marvelous news.
Oh?
Just had very good news.
Oh, hello.
Somebody I've been after to interview on Men's Radio has just agreed Katie Price. I've been after her for months to come on the show, and I want her to come on and talk about her kids. That's what I've been after this for ages.
Well, there you go.
Just had confirmation.
Anywho, I digress. I could go on all day about that subject, which I'm not going to, but thank you very much to anyone who's messaged me. It's very kind of you. Honestly, I do appreciate it. Let us move on now. Let's talk about something nice and calming. Russell, how about a nice spot of yoga? He's getting his ability.
You're upsetting my whole mood. I'm zoning out.
Well, I'm perfectly used to that, to be honest with you. But for those of you who are not watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, and listening instead,
happy talk.
Good heavens! Those who are listening,
you like to do.
You're ruining me moment. Shut up.
Go on.
To those who are, of course, listening on mensradiostation.com or across Deluxe Radio and Radio Waves, you can't see that Russ is actually doing the actions to Happy Talk, or indeed doing some sort of bizarre yoga position of some description. Anyway, I'm sure our next guest is going to tell him that it's not a yoga position at all, because James Crossley, luckily, is an expert on this matter, and he joins us now. James, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, gents. Thanks for having me on.
Absolute pleasure. You look like a chap who works out in the gym, if you don't mind me saying so.
I used to do, yeah, retired.
Have you really? Look at those shoulders. I'd have to get a coat hanger.
You know what I need to do? I need to show you my, because obviously lockdown has been a pretty tricky time, hasn't it, for everybody keeping fit, and mental health and physical health, they do go hand in hand. So I had this garden. I ended up having to create a gym. I know that everybody can see this in viewers, but you can maybe describe it. But this is what I ended up coming off with.
Oh, get out of town!
Dumbbells, benches, tires.
Oh,
okay. So to anyone who can't see it,
fabulous.
James,
that's great.
James has got one of the pop-up gazebos set up in his garden, properly all weighed down, so it's sort of like a semi-permanent type structure. Within there, he's got, it looks like a bench press. I can see dumbbells in there and all sorts of gymnasium type equipment that he has had to clearly set up, just so he can come up to the gym.
I've been doing exercise and weights since I was 12 years old, so to take that out of my routine it would not just affect me physically, but the mental aspect of it. So that's been a bit of a saviour, to be fair, during lockdown.
One of my twins is a gym bunny and has been going, I think, every day for at least 6 years. And when the gyms shut, it affected him very badly.
A lot of people have messaged me with that. It's not the physical issues, it's the mental issues they've had with not doing exercise, and it's very difficult to motivate when you're in that home environment, and it's almost like the less you do, the less you want to do, and it's getting that in your daily routine.
So James,
so important.
James, for individuals like me who gets out of breath running a bath, never mind running on a treadmill, can you please explain Why?
Don't encourage him, James.
Please, can you explain why it is that there is such a pull towards the gym? Because I know I'm in the minority. I know so many people who go to the gym. They all love it, and they all say the same thing. When they don't go, they feel some sense of deprivation. They feel depressed. They feel sad. What is it?
Well, if you imagine a car, and if you imagine the outer hood of the car, all the kind of works of it, and the engine, they all tie together to make one beast. And one kind of ties in with the other. So if you're not working externally, you're not going to work internally as well. So you really need to have physical health, and all the hormones that get released from exercise are going to help with your mental well-being as well. They're going to help with your sleep. They're going to help with your mood. There's so many aspects to it. So it's really tying the two together to make that perfect vehicle.
Yeah. You know what? During all of this, I through hook and by crook, I got some personal training. I do personal training. I've never done it before in my life, and the difference it has made, even at my age, it's been fantastic. Somebody called Gail Nichols, who we've had on the show, and it's great. And when I don't get it, I miss that.
Yeah,
it's done on Zoom. I just do what I can within my own capabilities, which are fairly limited. But I have to say, it's really made. It makes a difference. It makes a big difference up here. Wow.
It's an investment in your life. It's not just about how you look. It's about how long you're going to live. It's about how you move. There's so many aspects to it. And what's great there with a trainer on Zoom, you've got that accountability. And as busy men, it's like, oh, the kids are doing this. I've got to walk the dog. I've got to do it. You can always find an excuse. But if you're booking an appointment with somebody online, you've got that accountability to do that exercise. And that's what's really important.
It's so, something, it's so true, because I've got a million things on the go at the moment. It's just getting out of hand. And then you got, as you say, walk the dog. And then you think, oh no, look at the time, and I've got to do these. You'll always find a reason not to.
Yeah, but absolutely.
You've got to talk yourself into it.
Yeah. And I think as you age, especially as you start getting over 40, you have to make that investment in your health, because that's when you really start to notice that your posture changes. You start to slouch. You're getting back pain. Your knees are starting to hurt. You're not sleeping as well. So there's all these aspects of aging which can be counteracted with exercise.
James, have you been following me? James, I don't want to be rude. Have you been following me around or something? What the hell?
I don't mean
Bloody hell.
I don't mean to be rude.
This man knows everything about me. We've never met.
I don't mean to be rude.
Worrying.
Just finish me off now, for heaven's sake. Seriously, if I've got all that to look forward to, good God.
Yeah, but you're 34.
What's your age? 34. Yeah.
34.
You've still got, you've taken a cat with 9 lives. You've still got those lives. So you can get away with a slightly more erratic lifestyle. But when you get older, you run out of those lives. And that's when you've got to kind of, they're a bit more precious. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, James. I'm getting a little worried about turning 40, but I'll deal with it.
You deal with it, yeah.
I'll deal with it when it happens. One of the things is, James, and you're so right about posture and the way you look and how it affects you, is sometimes, I'm going to be quite honest, when I see a pal of mine that I haven't seen in a long time, and you see them, and I come away thinking, Jesus, they've aged, or they suddenly they look old. And I look in the mirror and I go, hello, Dad. So I'm not excluding myself from this, right? But you don't want to do that. You don't want the middle-aged paunch and the bad posture and all of those things. I think it just makes you feel incapable of doing the things you're actually still very capable of doing. I'm a firm believer in that.
One phrase I hate is age is just a number, because, if your knees are 30 years old, or if they're 60 years old, they're a completely different beast. And you have to adapt your lifestyle to how you adapt your aging. And it's all right. When I was younger, I was, doing gladiators and running up walls and doing this and that. And then in my 30s, I was competing in strongman and rolling cars and doing all this crazy stuff. And it's only when I became over 40 that I realized, actually, I've got all these injuries. And that's when I started getting more into yoga. I had to find a way to counteract them. That's when I started lifting lighter weights. That's when I started being a bit more mindful about my alcohol intake and how much sleep I get, because your body is changing, the hormones are changing, and that's when you have to look after yourself a bit more.
Well, speaking
you mentioned something there, Mr. Crossley, gladiator.
Yeah.
Go on.
So I was a hunter on gladiators in.
Yes, you see, everybody.
Yeah.
This is Hunter. Can I do something I wanted to do my whole life, James? I've got to do something I wanted to do my whole life. Are you ready?
Oh no!
I wanted to do my whole life. Gladiators, ready.
There you go.
I'm happy. I can die happy now.
Do you know what? It's uncanny. It's almost like John Anderson. Oh, you have not. Oh my goodness me! For those hang on. For those who are not, hang on.
We're loving this.
For those, listen. So those who are listening to this and who cannot see this, right?
This is great.
Has just gone to the corner of his living room, and you remember those oversized cotton wool buds that the gladiators used?
Yeah, they used to bang bang. Yeah.
He's got one of them in the corner of his room. This is a very happy day for me.
You see, this is
pugil stick, I believe, is the technical term.
No, they're cotton wool buds. They're earbuds. They're earbuds for giants, is what they are.
Yeah.
I'm just going to ask you one question because I know that was history. But was it as much fun as it looked? Because it was a fantastic show.
It was.
I loved
it was
show.
a lot of fun, and I suppose when I was so young when I was doing it, and I look back and it's still just an incredible what it was. It was 10,000 people in an arena. And we were filming the shows twice a day. This is the thing, because
oh my God, what?
So we were filming them twice a day. Each show took about 6 hours. So it was a long old day. And then, the process of getting 10,000 people in and out. And this is, of course, back in the day when we only had 3 or 4 channels. So it was like 18 million viewers. It was such a huge show. But yeah, an incredible, very lucky to have that been part of such an epic Saturday night TV, really.
One of our friends.
Remember, it was Gladiator. Baywatch, Blind Date, and Gladiators. That was then. Let's Go Out. That was a
proper television.
proper television.
Don't worry, we got.
What can I say?
Oh, that was proper telly.
For some of us, hang on a sec. For some of us, though, if you did tune between the BBC and ITV, then occasionally you were lucky enough to watch a bit of Paul Daniels' Magic Show as well. That was quite good.
Oh yeah, of course.
One of our listeners, Glacier Man, and my friend was a gladiator. He was called Rhino.
Yes, obviously I know Rhino very well. Yeah, good friend of mine. He's over in LA now, so his life took him.
Do any of you guys stay in touch? Do any of you guys stay?
Yeah,
stay in touch or?
We everybody's dotted all over the place, but some of them I became really firm friends with, and some of them even now we get off with these crazy jobs, and I think people still expect us to have long blonde hair and these massive muscles, and they'll even say to you, "Oh, can you wear your leotard?" You're like, "Hang on a sec, I'm 47." It's not like the same as when I was 20 years old. But yeah, I do still keep in touch with them. Wolf, everyone always asks about Wolf, and he's 67 now.
Wow.
And he has a gym in New Zealand. He emigrated to New Zealand about 20 years ago, and he's got a really great quality of life out there. Yeah.
Well, he's the one who's laughing now, I suggest.
Well,
absolutely, he's literally living in the local now, isn't he? Everybody else is in lockdown, and New Zealand are all good.
Yeah, what a sensible guy. I remember. I was at a charity lunch back in the day, and one of the female gladiators who happened to be my favorite, the name's gone right out of my head, and we're all dressed up in suits and ties as we did back then. It was quite posh somewhere off Park Lane in London, and she arrived in a gladiator's outfit, and if you think they looked good on TV, holy God, I think most of my food went in my ear. I just was sitting there like, can't remember. Very, very attractive, and I was sitting next to Nicholas Parsons. I've never forgotten this. And he turned to me, the late great, my radio and television hero, Nicholas Parsons. Says, "I have to ask you, why is that young lady dressed in that peculiar fashion?" And I said to her, "Well, Nicholas, she's a gladiator." "Oh, what? When this was huge, it was like the biggest show." He said, I don't know what that means. He was exactly as you'd expect Nicholas Parsons to be. I think it was. It may have been Jet. You're quite right.
Oh,
Julian McLeod says it could have been Jet.
I've got my Jet mug out for you there.
Oh, whoa. I'm sorry.
James, there's one thing that I do need to. I know this is not why you're here to talk about this.
I know.
Sorry.
But there is one thing.
I never leave home without a Jet mug,
Yep.
No, I wouldn't either, frankly.
I'm afraid there is one great mystery that needs solving. And I'm really hoping you'll be able to do this, because in the absence of John Fashanu, who's not here to answer for himself, I need to ask you, what the devil did he used to say at the end of the show? You know, he had a catchphrase.
Auga. Auga. And he made that word up. He always said it was a forgotten language, but it's so forgotten, nobody even knows it, you know. Auga. So I think he was trying to get it on as a catchphrase, but it never caught on. You know, nobody actually really, you know, even the crowd looked bedazzled when he said it. Auga.
Well, it's really strange actually you say that, because if you ever watched Richard Osman's House of Games, which is on BBC Two now at the moment, and if you ever watch the House of Games right at the end of the program when the show is finished, Richard doesn't necessarily know when the last question is, so he'll say, right, okay, next question is, and then you just hear this klaxon, and it always reminds me of John Fashanu, because this klaxon sounds like and that's how it sounds, so it makes me think of John Fashanu whenever I hear that. Anyway,
that's a quick John Fashanu story, because he was quite a character. So John was obsessed with martial arts. So what he would do, he would employ a different martial artist to live with him at his house and teach him karate, taekwondo, or whatever it was, and they'd live with him for 6 weeks. So when he came onto the Gladiator set, he was all pumped up, you know, because he loved it, and he'd say, any of you at any point in time, I want you to try and attack me. And this became a running thing. That at any point in our lycras and with our
Peter Sellers and Pink Panther
to test him, so we dressed Cobra up as a ninja, and with the help of Ulrika, we hid him in his closet in his changing room, in his like personal changing room. And it's now John Fashanu telling the story, and he said, "Oh, Hunter man, what was amazing is I heard this noise, this screech, and I looked round, and he said my first reaction was claw grip. He was so proud, Cobra." Wailing out of his closet, you know, out of his broom cupboard, and he's now in claw grip, ready. But we had a lot of fun attacking John over 9 years.
But did you ever see Pink Panther with Peter Sellers?
Yes, it was just like that. It was just like that.
Attack me anytime. Kosher attack.
That is exactly how it was.
I mean, out of interest, is that why Jeremy took over?
It could have been, yeah.
Oh right. Now that was then, and thank you for all the fun, by the way, James. Thank you for all the fun. It was, and also, in all seriousness, I want to say something that's slightly tangential, but I hope you get the point. So many people.
It's not like us to go off topic on this show.
No. There's so many people when you talk to someone who did something in the past, like I did the flying eye in the past, and some people go, well, that was a long time ago, blah, 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 and they get all uppity, and it's very nice. Like, I'm always happy to talk about it. If you want to talk about it, if it made people, you know, entertain people, great. And you were happy to talk about it, so thank you for that. I don't take it for granted,
I think what happened,
a lot of people can just shut that conversation down.
Yeah. No, but you know what? I think I've gone through phases in life where I'm like, you know, for a while I did a bit of acting, and I ended up working for the Royal Shakespeare Company for 2 years, and I came out of that I was about 28, 30, and I was like, I'm going to be an actor. I'm not a gladiator anymore. But you go full circle, you know. I am a gladiator. That's what I did. That's what I am. End of interview, you know. So I think, as we all do, you go through different stages, don't you? But I love talking about it. You know, it was actually an honour to be part of it.
And also, you know, you've got to remember that you gave a load of, millions, and not just thousands. You gave millions of people loads of pleasure. It was great fun. It got people to think about physical sports and physical training. I think that's an important point, and it was hugely entertaining, so bless you for that.
Well, the thing is, I still get people messaging me now, and they say they started fitness because of gladiators, and I think that's the main thing that we've got from it, is people who are inspired to get into shape or start lifting weights or start thinking about their body because of gladiators, which is amazing.
So can I just ask a quick question? What's your opinion on Ninja Warrior UK?
Well, you see, Ninja Warrior, I think it's a nice idea, but I think it's a shame that they're not going against each other. I'd like to see two lanes. That's only my thought on it. So I just hold my attention. But I think if they were going against each other, 2 lanes, I just think it would be a bit more exciting for the crowd, because it's against the clock, isn't it? I tell you what's interesting about Ninja Warrior, because I know people that have been contestants on it, is that when you were a contestant on Gladiators or a gladiator, we only got 2 days practice on all the events. So let's say we had 12 events. You got 2 days and you do all 12 events. So unless you did stuff in your own time at home, you know, I was running around car parks, pushing cars to replicate an atmosphere, or I was doing climbing walls with a weighted backpack to replicate the wall and the pyramids. You had to, if you didn't practice in your own time, 2 days isn't long enough to get good at these events. Now in Ninja Warrior, they're not allowed to go around the obstacle course at all. Apparently, they just turn up and they're like, right,
What?
there you go. Yeah, they're not allowed
Right.
to even. They're not allowed to even practice. So they have to be very well rehearsed in some physical way, because that would be my worst nightmare. My phrase, my mantra as a child growing up in gladiators was fail to prepare, prepare to fail. To go on a show where you can't even go around the course, it'd be very difficult.
Sorry, can we just clarify something that was actually quite a throwaway comment? Sorry, that it actually just stuck out to me a mile. Did you say that you used to push a car in all?
Yeah, so I was I was living in York, and I trained at this Railway Institute gym, which was a bit like Rocky. Imagine Rocky in Rocky 4, where he's in the mountains. It was a bit like that.
Yeah.
There was no proper equipment. It was just weld wheels, and we had to replicate the movement patterns that you'd use in the event. So if you remember Atmospheres, it was that massive kind of hamster ball that you run around. Yeah. So we had to think, well, what movement pattern would be similar? And pushing a car around a car park was actually hitting the same muscles, the glutes, the hamstrings, the thighs, the heart and lungs. So I would try and find a different way of replicating. For duel, I used to tie my feet together and box with my legs tied together as if I was on a platform. So we just had to find something that worked the same muscles, the same movements.
Wow.
I love this. Now, James, you are here for a very different reason. So can we take up the whole time?
I bet he's thrilled he came on now.
Sorry. So sorry. But life does move on from gladiators, unbelievably enough.
Eye of the hamster. Well done, Sen. Very good, Sen. Thank you. That's good. I like that.
Sakes. Now, you have been putting lockdown to something in the way of good use, not just apart from building your gym outside, but gaining yoga qualifications, I believe.
Well, I am not very good at sitting still. I'm a bit of a doer, so I always have to have a bit of a focus. And obviously, when lockdown came, my work, I'm a strength and conditioning coach. That's kind of my main job. Which means, how is that different to a personal trainer? I train athletes, or I do workshops in gyms talking about getting stronger or losing body fat, that kind of thing. So I needed something to fill my time. And I've since gladiators, I've done yoga, but never, just to kind of dipped my toe in now and again. And my girlfriend is actually a yoga instructor. So I was always thought something I fancied doing. And then because of lockdown, they changed the restrictions on how to get your qualifications. Normally you had to do, I think, 200 hours, but you have to do 90% hands-on. But you could basically do it with videos and sending in videos of you teaching and that kind of thing. So in lockdown 1 is when I got my my vinyasa, which is the standard yoga 200-hour qualification. And I've got a few, actually. I also got, there's different kinds of yoga, but I did that one. I did yin, which is a slower. I got that. But I also did, so I got both yoga qualifications. I got qualified as a gong practitioner because I'm into mental health and mental awareness, and it's basically a form of meditation. So I play the gong and the didgeridoo and various other hand pans and stuff.
Look at that!
Hang on.
They're all things that I do.
You can't leave it there. You play the didgeridoo.
You want a little go? Hang on.
Yeah.
Check this out. Okay.
How good value is James Crosley, everybody?
I'm also available for weddings and bar mitzvahs.
Well,
fantastic! I'm booking you straight off.
If you were to, by any chance, if you were up for playing a bit of Dancing Queen, that would be very Aboriginal. Thank you very much.
It's a difficult tune to play on here.
I can't believe you did that gag. All right.
Aboriginal.
Shh.
Oh my. Now, right there is why it's really important to chew your food.
There you go.
Sunrise early in the morning. That's really great.
Well,
so,
you know what? I actually got that on. I got that on eBay. It was an actual eucalyptus root that's hollowed by termites. So yeah, that's I love eBay purchase stuff. But anyway, we're going off piece a little bit, but yeah. So I got.
No, we're not. This is great. I'm loving it.
And now I teach yoga and I do gong baths at a place called Sadhana Wellbeing in Clapham. We stream them online for lockdown. So I do a
what
class
is
for men.
Explain the gong thing, James.
So basically, the sounds of a gong and the vibrations are very good for healing. They're very good for insomnia. They're very good for stress. So you just basically lay there as the different sounds wash through your body. And, there's a lot of sounds in the body with the heartbeat, the pulse, but you can get blockages. And because we tend to have the same sound patterns, you can get fixed. And what these do, the sounds, they can give you a little nudge. And what we find is if someone has a gong bath and they really embrace it, they have the best night's sleep of their life. It's really good for sleep, really good for stress. It's basically a form of meditation. It's a really good meditation tool. And I've always struggled with meditation, sitting there, concentrating on breath and just stillness, because my mind is always a million miles an hour.
My mind's like a firework display.
Yeah, exactly. So the one that I really noticed made a massive difference to me was gong bath. So that's why I started learning to play. I used to be a percussionist of DJs. Remember back in house music days? I was bongo man with a big cowboy hat. So I've always had an interest. Yeah, a bit of that. I've always had an interest in music, and then this was kind of I suppose a more holistic progression. Too much alcohol in DJs and bongos, whereas it's all about herbal teas.
I have to tell you, Russ's ability to empty a club was extraordinary. Anyway,
yes, they could do it faster than I could. Now, here's the thing with the gong. So you lie. Yeah. So the people in the group, you'd play the gong, and you'd lay there with a blindfold on. You just lay there and just kind of relax. Yeah. I love the sound.
You have a blindfold.
I really love that.
So I start off with some lighter instruments, like maybe a chime or something, and then you bring in the gong, and then you can bring in some hand pans. So I've got a variety of different hand pans, which I can kind of put in.
The sounds
are so relaxing.
Go on.
Hang on.
Oh
wow.
So it's very relaxing sound. And
you know what, James? In all seriousness, I actually felt myself relaxing, which anyone who knows me well knows that's a miracle. I actually
get this one out.
Hang on, he's not finished yet.
Is this not the best guest ever?
Can I warn you? Is in the waiting room.
It's a crystal harp. Okay, so just listen
to
this.
Oh, what a crystal harp! By the Olympics, hello campers. By the Olympic-sized swimming pools, the Noble Knee competition. Do it again.
Wow!
Wowee!
I've
never heard of I've heard of Crystal Palace.
I've heard of
Crystal Harp.
Yeah.
I've heard of Crystal Maze, but not Crystal Harp.
Crystal Harp.
There you go.
What is it? Is there a guitar sitting there? One of our listeners is saying, if you got a guitar, where was the food gone?
Hang on.
Is it a takamine?
Hang on. Can I suggest there's someone who's considerably... Oh my God, he's got a guitar. Can I suggest there's someone considerably more intelligent than us standing by? I'm wondering, Chantal Rickards, have you ever heard of a crystal harp?
No.
You know what?
Anyway.
It's a bit like singing bowls. You've heard of singing bowls?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So it's similar to those, except it's like very, very, very fine crystals that kind of it's tuned to the body's frequency, and it just absorbs through the body. Hello.
Can I just say, by the way, that James Crossley meet Chantal Rickards. Chantal Rickards meet James Crossley. Anyway,
party.
You very well have actually stumbled across each other before, because Chantal's is rather a big wig in the world of television, you see. So it's distinctly possible that paths have been crossed.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, I think we had James on Through the Keyhole a million years ago, but I could be wrong.
Hang on a sec. Oh. I reckon I've got that bit of memorabilia somewhere.
This is not great. This is just great. I thought we were going to just talk
about this is amazing.
What are you talking about?
That's extraordinary.
Good for you. Good for you.
Who may not have known the link is that Chantal, Through the Keyhole was Chantal's fault, frankly. And
she was the producer and grand fromage of Through the Keyhole. So that's extraordinary there.
James, you've obviously been a contestant, or you've been a featured on Through the Keyhole.
Yes, yeah. We went to James. I think it was an apartment at the time. I think it was.
Yeah, it was. It was. I remember it clearly because there was an eclipse that day, and we all went outside to watch the eclipse.
Right.
That's why I remember it, because we were all stood there waiting for this eclipse.
What were the clues? Were they like?
I'll tell you what gave it away. Because I knew one of the panelists. I can't remember who it was. I think she was a swimmer. But they came round the house and they were looking around and they went, "Oh yeah, and look over here, we've got some books." And then look what's behind the books.
Oh, come on. That must have given it away.
And it had my bow and arrow on the side. So I think it was the Gladiator helmet that was there. She said, "Oh, I saw your helmet." And I knew it was you by the helmet,
We had to give some clues.
Exactly, yeah.
That's... Cool. Did you... I'm going to ask while you're both there, because I've never asked you this, Shutters. When you did that, were the rooms as they were, or were they dressed? I've no idea how it works.
Well,
I don't need to ruin the magic of TV, but...
No, well, it is slightly ruining the magic of TV, but I think I've told you in the past that I always, whenever I used to go and recce for Through the Keyhole, and then I would go back to the house 6 weeks later with the film crew, that I was rather like the Queen, because everywhere smelled of fresh paint. So there had been, a few makeovers were being done before I turned up with the film crew. But no, on the day, everything was left in exactly the same place unless there was a reason for moving it. Sometimes people clearly had pictures of themselves, so those had to be moved out of the way. But other times we might have moved something, but we were always asked specifically, or we asked the homeowner if we could move things. Yeah.
Now, James, you may not know this. I'm sure you do, being an avid viewer of this program. Chantel joins us around this time every Friday to give us some suggestions, just a little bit of light relief, because obviously some of the subjects we cover on Men's Radio are quite heavy, you see. So we get a little bit of light relief in the form of Chantel, who offers us some suggestions in her expert wisdom when it comes to all things televisual to maybe watch over the forthcoming weekend. So with that in mind, and bearing in mind that you were quite a large part of weekend television for quite a number of years, do you have to rush off? Are you happy to stick around potentially and join us for this part of it? Not to put you on the spot, of course.
Yeah, I've got about 10, 15 minutes. Would that work?
So what about stick around with us for 10, 15 minutes if Chantel, if it's okay with you. And ladies and gentlemen, hang on to your seats, please, because it's time. Oh, have something white like a tissue standing by or something like that. It's time. I'll just use the curtain behind you, Russell, for this.
What better than James Crossley holding the Through the Keyhole thing?
I don't think
you couldn't make it up. You couldn't make this up. Right.
I can't do that. I can do this. There you go. I can rattle my keys. Does that work for anyone?
I'm going to do that. What have you found? Anything at all?
Well,
anything.
I have a penchant for James Nesbitt, and I'm not too. I'm happy to admit that I have a penchant for Jimmy Nesbitt because he is an actor who can do no wrong. I mean, he literally never has a frown out of place. I mean, an eyebrow out of place. He is just a perfect performer. Started in theatre from Northern Ireland and has just this week been on BBC One in the second episode of actually a very good thriller series called Bloodlands, which takes him back to Northern Ireland. He's a copper. Of course, there's always a backstory. The backstory is that his wife was working for the security services in Belfast 20 years earlier and disappeared. He has a daughter who's 21 or 22, so he's brought up a young woman on his own. The whole thing is around a mystery figure called Goliath, who is named after one of the famous Harland and Wolff cranes. There were two cranes in Belfast that are absolute monuments to Belfast. One called Samson, one called Goliath. But there was an undercover guy who was supposedly popping people off 20 years earlier, called Goliath. So it's a mystery that goes back 20 years, but is very much brought up to date right in the opening episode with somebody being kidnapped at Strangford Lough. So it's all fascinating stuff. Second episode has got some wonderful twists and turns in it. Shows you parts of Northern Ireland I've never seen. It looks incredibly beautiful.
Yes,
and Jimmy Nesbitt is just joy. He's just joy on a stick. He's a wonderful human being.
What's it on? What channel?
BBC One.
BBC One.
BBC One. So catch up with that. 2 episodes are out there. The BBC, as we know, don't tend to release lots of programs all at once. They do for the Scandi Noir things that they have on BBC 4, and they sometimes drop 2 per week, and then they sometimes drop a whole series. But BBC One are still doing the traditional 1 a week, 1 a week, 1 a week. But this is definitely worth catching up with and following through with.
Is it really for me the fact that with James Nesbitt, my favourite thing he ever did was an advert for the AA once?
Oh, bless.
Sorry, no, it wasn't the AA. I beg your pardon. It was the Yellow Pages. And I tell you why I know it was the Yellow Pages, because what happened was the scene was that you had him sort of in. He was bringing a friend back, shall we say, to his apartment, and what happened is that this friend was telling him that, hey, oh my God, you've got to be careful. I think someone's broken into your flat, basically, because the place like a bomb had gone off in it. But of course, he was just a messy resident, you know. Anyway, so he phones up the Yellow Pages and says something along the lines of, "I need someone for a cleaner because some idiot's broken into my flat." So, of course, he doesn't take responsibility for the fact that it looks like a pigsty. It's just more the fact that he's the one who wanted to try and impress this person that he's with. Anyway, I guess he had to be there. Very amusing.
Yeah.
Did
you watch him in Lucky Man? I really enjoyed Lucky Man.
Lucky Man, yes, but I mean, I don't know enough about Lucky Man to be able to sort of critique it. I actually loved him when I first saw him, which was in a film called Hear My Song, a million years ago. Yeah. And he was terrific in that, and then of course Cold Feet, and he became an absolute superstar in Cold Feet, and then Murphy's Law, and then he did Missing on BBC One. I mean, he's a very accomplished actor.
James, what are you watching?
I tell you what, I've just started watching because I tend to watch like movies, but I found on Sky Atlantic. I just want to find the name of it for you. It's so gripping. This new one from the guy from
Breaking Bad.
Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor. Oh my goodness.
Well, bizarrely, that's just come up on my screen because it's on my page 2 of my notes.
Yeah. Wow.
So
I mean, talk about an opening episode that makes you go, oh! It was one of those.
So for those that don't know and haven't caught up with it yet, it's a brand new series on Sky Atlantic featuring Bryan Cranston, who a lot of people will remember as the dad in Breaking Bad. And this is very different because here he is a judge and, criminal system, legal system. It's a legal drama, basically, but it veers into criminal territory, but all, as ever, in defense of his family. So he's sort of yet again perpetuating this idea that he's the fabulous dad who does everything for his family, which is exactly what he did in Breaking Bad, going from chemistry teacher to meth dealer.
That's right,
to try and give money to his family after his death. So anyway, it's really worth watching. All the episodes are out there already if you want to do a sort of back to back.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Cranston was nominated for a Golden Globe last weekend for this role. And it's very well acted. The sort of storyline is that his son is involved in a hit and run. He persuades his son that he needs to go to the police, and then suddenly there is this sort of moment of clarity whereby he realizes that the person who has been killed is a mobster's son, and then the whole thing just switches.
No, I'm aware.
He's the main mobster's son. So
I do have to say,
I'm aware that James has got to.
Yeah, for those of us of a certain age, though, Bryan Cranston, I have to tell you, though, sorry, Russ, got to get this in there. Of course, he will always be the dad in Malcolm in the Middle for some of us. Just saying.
Indeed, the perfect dad.
I didn't even know that. Now, James, before you go, and bless you for staying on and being fantastic sport today. If people wanted to get hold of you or attend your classes, and how can they find you?
Yeah, okay. Well, the best thing is to go on my Instagram, Mr. James Crossley, and I put everything on there. So yeah, I've got a DVD out, Fit at 40, which is on Amazon for over 40 fitness. But I put all that on the Instagram, and then for the live classes, I'm at Sedana Live, which is in Clapham. So yeah, check that out. And,
What's the name of it?
you know,
I'm sorry, what's it called?
The Sadhana Live.
Sadhana
Yeah,
Live.
that's where I do the gong bath and the men's yoga and the vinyasa. Yeah, but there's the gong bath. You should try. I'll send you a link and you can try one.
Well,
do you know what? I'd
really
really,
enjoy it.
blooming love to try the gong.
you
Did you
can
see
now
the gong bath
consider
thing,
yourself
Shelters? It's great.
followed. There you
Oh,
go.
look at that! Thank you. Yeah,
Brilliant.
I think you'll enjoy it.
Well done.
To be
James,
honest,
thank you. I know you got to go, but thank you so much for joining us. Good luck with everything you do, and
Check that out.
oh bless.
What's
oh,
is that
Killer.
bulldog or bot?
just over there. Just over there.
All right, guys. I'm
one's
going to go use
snoozing.
this key and
Jay,
try and find
yep.
somewhere to use it. Take care. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye, James. Good seeing you again.
Bye.
Good Lord.
Wasn't that fun? Can we
Oh,
have
that was
Chantal?
lovely to see
Can
James.
we not have Chantal? No, not me. There we go. That's much nicer. I'm very quickly, because I've managed to find nothing apart from a lot of YouTube stuff, which I'm watching endlessly.
Ah, well, what are you watching on YouTube?
Air fryer recipes.
I wasn't expecting that for an answer.
Yeah, but Chantal, I don't even have a bloody air fryer. I don't even know why I'm watching it.
You know
I'm
what?
obsessed with watching air fryer. So I'm watching that.
A particular series at some stage gets really heated.
I'm watching that, and then I'm stuck on these American survivalist things. So I watch What to Do If You Have a Home Invasion. I've got my Glock. I'm ready with my Glock, my pepper spray, my guns, my shot. I'm ready with everything.
What?
And the other thing,
you have a home invasion.
oh yeah. There's loads of those. There's loads. I watch loads of those. And the other thing which fascinates me is you need a sharp knife, and it's all these people who are clearly, hunters and survivalists and everything, showing you how to sharpen the knife. I don't have a knife, but I find these things absolutely. I just sit there because it's a completely different world. So it's my way of just entering this totally different world. If you think, Chantal, the premise of how to protect yourself in a home invasion, well, obviously you can't use your AK-40, and he's just sitting there and he's bringing out enough stuff to start World War III. This is a bloke in a house, and you're thinking, we're starting from a different perspective here, my friend.
Indeed.
I'm going to hit you with a bill from 02 or an envelope or something, and you're saying, well, you're not going to have room to use your shotgun. It's going to take too long to load. I'm going, we are on such different planets.
In that case, Russ, I haven't chosen this as one of my selections for this week, but you must go back and find a Stacey Dooley documentary. Stacey Dooley is the gorgeous, redhead, fabulous sort of East End girl on BBC Three, mainly. Her things are made for BBC Three. And she goes to visit basically people who are building bunkers for themselves when the end comes, or when the wrong president gets in, or something.
For the wind changes, yes.
Yeah, for some moment of Armageddon where they have to defend themselves. And they've all bought bunkers in the same place in, I think, somewhere like Wyoming. It is extraordinary in what you learn about the neuroses of some people in America who think that they are going to have to live off the grid forever because a government will come in that they won't like. It's really quite worrying, to be honest, but it's a fascinating documentary. And she's sort of taken over that mantle of Louis Theroux, of going in and being slightly probing, but you know that underneath she's just thinking, these people are Fruit Loops, but she doesn't say it. There's very cleverly done.
Let me ask you a question, Chantal.
Two things. Number one, have you got your bunker ready? And if so, please will you be so kind as to do the slot from next week from your bunker? And number two, what I find particularly scary is that people of this mindset are allowed to vote. I'm just saying.
No, well, I don't. I watch a lot of gun videos, a lot, and it's extraordinary. But it's no good sitting in London like we do. I know this goes out around the world, but we're London centric because we're Londoners.
Yeah.
And just viewing it with this London metropolitan perspective when you're living in Wyoming, Carolina, you know, all Texas, all these other places. It's a different world, and it's not fair to, you know, it's not entirely fair. I have a question for you, and it's something I've been thinking of, and you just brought it up, so I hope you don't mind, Phil, if I just dive in. It's this: I can't watch Louis Theroux. I was a big fan. I admired him. I liked him a lot. I can't watch him anymore because I feel he's been discredited for what he does by letting two people, who I won't even bother to mention, that he spent a lot of time with and not seeing what they were really like. And so I just think you have nothing more to say to me anymore. And that's just me. I'm just speaking as me. I don't do television, so
yeah, that is a really interesting take on what he does. I mean, I think to a certain extent the game is up with Louis Theroux because we sort of know he's become a trope. We sort of know what's going to happen, and we sort of, you know, we're too familiar with what he does now. But I get where you're coming from in terms of, I presume you're referring to things like the Savile documentary.
Yes.
Whereby he didn't get, you know, he only got skin deep. He didn't get beneath the surface. He didn't really show us anything other than the outer shell of a man who turned out to be, you know, deeply flawed.
A monster.
Yeah.
Also, hang on a second. I've got to take umbrage. I'm sorry. I seriously, I do. Because if you think about it, Savile was the kind of person who he was in control of everything around him. So he knew how to work the cameras. If he wanted Louis Theroux to see something, then he would have seen that something. If he didn't want them to see it, he wouldn't have seen it. And I'm guessing that quite low down on his list of things he wanted him to see was his disgusting habits, shall we say. I don't think there's any politer way I can put that.
Way. All right, let's be clear. But I mean, Chantal, you make these. You're much more. I understand that somebody as devious with two different people living in one body, so to speak, like him and the other person he spent a lot of time with, they're so used to projecting one thing when in fact there's something very, very radically different. I know he wasn't going to do that, but there wasn't any way that he even sort of started to push it apart slightly. I can't help that. Would I have done a better job? No, of course not. Absolutely not. I'd have been useless.
Yeah, but Ross, even if he, what proof would he have had?
Indeed. I mean, I worked with Jimmy Savile. Yeah, I worked with Savile on several occasions, and all I can tell you is I thought he was deeply weird. But did I know anything of his other life and what was going on? Clearly not, because, you know, if I had known, I'm sure I would have said something to somebody. I just thought he was weird.
Well, would you? Would you? Honestly, I know you well enough to ask you this question. Would you?
I think it's
if it was criminal behaviour. If I'd suspected criminal behaviour, I think I probably would have said something, or I would have suggested we dropped that person from the TV channel.
Totally.
I mean, I don't know if you saw the Max Clifford documentary this week that was on Channel 4. Max Clifford was a famous PR man for celebrities in the sort of 80s, 90s, who also turned out to be a child molester and ended up in jail, and quite right too, clearly. But he often defended people whose backgrounds were murky and dark. And there was, in theory, nobody who really knew the other side of him other than his victims. Clearly his victims knew, but in the wider group, everybody was surprised that he had this ghastly underbelly. So, I mean, some people are incredibly good actors. You know, we're talking about actors today. Some people are incredibly good actors, and some people believe that they're not bad people. They just don't get it. They don't see it.
Can I before we turn this into the Savile half hour, is there any?
No, it's just an interesting. No, the only reason I'm saying it, Phil, is when you get someone who has been in the the very midst of television at a high level that Chantal has and is, it's an opportunity to explore some of these things that only you and I, from the periphery of it, can only comment on. when someone's right in the heart of it. It's just that I think it's interesting for listeners and viewers who would like to ask these questions. That's just my take on it. I'm not trying to divert from what Chantal is charmingly here to do.
I suppose
that's all. You see what I'm saying? Because people don't have the opportunity to ask this sort of questions.
I don't need to say
so.
From my perspective, I just think it's more appropriate to let someone like that rot in the place that they've ended up, frankly. But even so, what, perchance, Chantal, else have you picked out?
Okay, so I've picked out something that's called a dark comedy. I have got another comedy to really lighten one's view on life after this. But this is a brand new film starring Rosamund Pike, who's a very good British actress.
Rosamund Pike.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a brand new movie that's just come out on Amazon called I Care a Lot. And she won the Golden Globe last weekend for lead actress. And her performance is absolutely brilliant. The story is that she is running a care home. The backstory, if you like, or the understory, is that she targets women who are generally women, not always women, but women and men who are beginning to dement and who don't have people they don't have nearest and dearest generally. So she's in cahoots with a local doctor and the local judge. And between them, they get these people put into care homes, and then she takes over their money. And rather like the Britney Spears documentary that we were talking about 2 or 3 weeks ago, she takes over guardianship, in effect, of these people, and for illegal means. So clearly she's a bad human being. There are comic moments, and it's extraordinary that it's promoted as a dark comedy, but actually it's quite dark. But it's good. It's really worth watching. I mean, it's 90 minutes, but she's excellent. It's a very good piece of acting as much as anything else. But it does sort of actually beg a lot of questions about what we do with our elderly. Are they in the right hands when we put them in care homes? Who is looking after their wealth? How is wealth passed on? All of those are sort of underlying questions. So there's a bigger picture at play, but the film itself is good, and it's called I Care a Lot.
And that's
many
on
years
Amazon.
ago. On Amazon, yes. Many years ago, unless I'm confusing her with another brilliant actress, there was a fantastic play in the West End called Hollywood Blonde about Alfred Hitchcock and his obsession with some of his actresses.
Hitchcock Blonde.
Hitchcock Blonde. Sorry, you're quite right. Not Hollywood Blonde. Hitchcock. How did you remember that?
I'm just on it. Don't you worry. I told you, I love the theatre.
Hitchcock Blonde. And I'm sure that was Rosamund Pike. And there was a very brave scene where she's standing there, au naturel.
Oh.
I mean, yeah. And I'm like in the second row. I'm thinking, embarrassed. I got a bit embarrassed to be honest. That's what I'm like. But she was fantastic in the part. It was a great play.
Okay.
Right.
Well, this film is a little bit Hitchcock. I mean, it's written by a very good British writer called Jonathan Blakeson, and he's been described, in by some people as having a bit of a Hitchcock vein. So it's worth watching anyway, and she's great.
She's always now. Can I stupid question? Do you pronounce it Rosamund?
Yes.
Rosamund. Okay.
I think it's Rosamund.
I would have said Rosamund, surely.
I think it is.
Double checking. I don't know. I've always had a problem with it.
Well, I interviewed her in LA for a good film that she did about the Irish writer who got involved in Syria, Orla Guerin. Do you remember? Was it Orla Guerin? No, not Orla Guerin. Don't mean Orla Guerin. Can't remember the film that came out about 3 years ago, who actually was killed covering the war in Syria.
Yes, I remember that.
And she played that part extremely well. She had an eye patch. Anyway, again, it's another film worth looking up and worth watching. But I interviewed her then, and I called her Rosamund, and she didn't say, "Oh no, it's not Rosamund."
Didn't punch you or anything. Didn't just hit you.
No.
It's Doreen.
Yeah.
Doreen.
No, normally I would always check with the PR people and say, how would Miss Pike like to be referred to, and what is the pronunciation, just to make sure that I didn't make a mistake. So
Here's an interesting point. And have I got time? Yes, I have. Sue Cressman says, "Oh, I want to watch that film. That's the film that you've just said I care a lot. But my husband didn't want to because he saw the stars on that were only a few." Who does the ratings for those films? If it's
well, there are lots of different rating systems. Clearly, IMDb has its own rating system. The one that most people refer to, the sort of the most popular one at the moment, is Rotten Tomatoes.
Rotten Tomatoes,
yeah, and a lot of people refer to Rotten Tomatoes. There's also Metacritic, which tends to be from people who are more in the know, if you like. But Rotten Tomatoes is a pretty good bellwether, I think, for what's popular and what isn't.
And Ramsey says it's Marie Colvin.
Oh, Marie Colvin. Absolutely. Well done. Thank you for that. Marie Colvin.
That's Ramsey. Thanks, Ramsey. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Ramsey.
And by the way, speaking of IMDb or the Internet Movie Database, does anyone by any chance know how old IMDb is?
Only we had an expert on television.
30 years, probably.
Okay, moving on. It is 30 years old. How on earth did you know that? For goodness sake.
It's her job, you idiot. That's what she does for a living.
No, but it's because it is actually because it's one of the oldest websites out there. That's what IMDb, one of IMDb's claims of fame is it's one of the oldest websites that's still going.
Yeah. And it was set up by a really terrific bloke called Cole Needham, who sold it to Amazon some time ago. Lives in Bristol. Absolutely fabulous.
Ramsey is so on this. He says IMDb was created by a film geek in Bristol. Wow,
Cole
you
Needham.
are on it, huh?
Yeah, Cole Needham, and he now works for Amazon because Amazon took it over. And Cole is, a very generous supporter of BAFTA, which is how I know him. But
that explains it. No wonder you knew how old it was.
It would be kind of a bit of a clue there. Yeah, but you're going to come and say hello to everybody.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on. No, come on.
Let's have a look.
No, she's doing a Megan. She just wants to be alone.
Oh,
left alone. I'm not going there. I just can't go there. My blood pressure won't take it. I saw very, very, very quickly in 2 seconds. I saw a film that I really liked. Rare. Called Fracture. It's either Fracture or Fractured. I think it's Fracture.
Fractured.
And it twists and turns. I didn't guess it. Which is always entertaining. Always entertaining.
Where's that, Russell?
Netflix.
Yeah.
On Netflix. Fracture. Nobody famous. Nobody not like famous in it. And it was just like it pulls you along. It's clever how it's done. Anyway,
an American psychological thriller film. Ooh,
yeah,
I like those. Right, Chantal, back to you. What else have you got
something very silly for the weekend. Something for the weekend, as they used to say. Something silly for the weekend. But actually, it's got more depth to it than you might suspect. I think we briefly mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, but I just wanted to give you a bit more information about it. It's something called Superstore, which is on Netflix. It's a sitcom.
Last week, yeah.
It's a silly sitcom, but it's actually got quite a lot to prove. And it's very clever in that it takes every single PC scenario and turns it on its head. So there isn't an issue that it won't tackle. Whether it's, in this particular supermarket, there'll be a member of staff who refuses to sell the morning after pill, or there'll be the store manager who says that only the Mexicans can sell the salsa brand and they have to dress up as Mexicans to be able to sell the bottled salsa.
Crack me up straight away.
It's sort of naughty in that it takes all of those thoughts and literally turns them upside down and takes the mickey out of PC-ness, but makes a point at the same time. So I think it's rather clever. It's now 6.
So the only thing I worry about with Superstore, because I have seen it's on Netflix, isn't it, at the moment? Yeah. But the only thing I worry about Superstore is whether or not I laugh at it because it's genuinely funny or I laugh out of nerves. I haven't quite worked that out.
Well, that's a very good point, Phil.
Ooh, good one.
Very good point, because actually I think you're allowed to laugh because it makes you feel slightly uncomfortable, as well as laughing because the comedy is good. There are some great comedy performances. The lead actress is America Ferrara, who you will remember hopefully from Ugly Betty, that was on Channel 4 many years ago.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, and she is the producer as well as the young immigrant worker who is trying to sort of work her way up into management.
And she doesn't look like Betty in this either.
Yeah. She's not like this, although there is another character that's a bit like that. But you know, she again she questions everything. And of course the supermarket itself is very un-PC. You know, they're only allowed one loo break every hour. They're all on 0 hours contracts. They're always being watched by senior management. So actually there's a bit of the idea that big business is not very good for people, and this company is not good for the staff. It questions everything, but it's very silly and very funny, and it's rated between 100% on Rotten Tomatoes to, I think it's currently at about 80% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Amazing stuff, Chantel. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry, but we are flat out of time for today. We'll see you next week, I hope, as normal.
See you next week.
Thank you very much.
Have a great weekend.
Goodbye. And there you go. That's all we have to do is to say thank you, by the way, to all.
I liked it before.
Dr. Ben Chalacombe
was fabulous.
Amazing. James Crossley, and of course, thank you very much for all of your comments. And dare I suggest, we want to thank you for your company as well. I know it's corny, but we kind of mean it.
It's true. Of course we do. Otherwise, we're talking to ourselves.
Well, quite.
Great. Thank you so much, as always, for being such a fantastic, interactive part of it all. If you've enjoyed it, we'll do it all again on Monday. And if you haven't enjoyed it, we'll do it all again on Monday.
Well, quite. We'll see you at midday. Whatever you're doing, have a good weekend. Stay safe. Goodbye, everybody.